Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
And a very good afternoon to you. This is indeed Football Live on Brila FM with me, Chris Baldwin, in the hot seat for the next 4.5 hours as we guide you through today's action in the Premier League and, of course, the top European leagues as well, with our team of reporters. And what an action-packed afternoon we have for you on today's edition. No less than 5 Premier League matches for you on offer this Sunday, with 4 of those encounters just about getting underway. Arsenal, of course, against Tottenham. The big North London derby. Will be across that game with our reporter Richard Bond, and we'll be crossing over to Richard at the Emirates very, very shortly for the latest news there. And also kicking off at 2 o'clock this afternoon, Brighton taking on Bournemouth on the south coast of England. Chelsea at home to Aston Villa, and Liverpool against West Ham. As I say, we'll be crossing over to our reporters very shortly for updates there. And later on in today's edition of Football Live, we'll be across all the action taking place at Bramall Lane, where Sheffield United play host to Newcastle. Kick-off at 4:30 p.m. We'll bring you all the build-up to that encounter with our reporter Duka Dogma later this afternoon. Our featured match in the German Bundesliga is at the Deutsche Bank Park, where Eintracht Frankfurt entertain Freiburg. They kick off there also at 4:30. Cam Wilson will be our man on the spot for all the action in that game. Coverage too here on Football Live in the Dutch Eredivisie, a fascinating encounter between 2 of the giants of Dutch football as Ajax face defending champions Feyenoord at the Johan Cruyff Arena. Now, they kicked off at 1:30, so just over half an hour or so ago, and the latest score there, Ajax 0, Feyenoord 2. Ajax having an absolutely wretched season so far. We'll be getting details of those 2 opening goals for the defending champions with our reporter Michael Jeffries in the next few minutes. And action too from Italian Serie A later on in a 5 p.m. kickoff. Victor Osimhen in action as Napoli travel to Bologna. As I say, that kicks off at 5 p.m. We'll be across that game for you. And as always, of course, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest news and goals as they go in throughout the top European leagues right here on Football Live. You won't miss a thing. The big match in North London at the Emirates, Arsenal against Tottenham. They've played coming up to about 2.5 minutes. Let's get all the latest news there. Well, as we say, a very good afternoon to Richard Bond.
Good afternoon, Chris. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Emirates Stadium, where we are minutes into the 194th North London derby between 4th place Arsenal separate and 2nd place Tottenham. It's been pretty even Stevens in this opening couple of minutes. We've had Tottenham on the ball quite a lot, having quite a bit of possession, but no real chances of note to report as of yet. Last season's runners-up Arsenal, though, have seemingly found a second gear this season, adding resolve really to their play to add to the impressive flair and movement on the ball. They had a really good win against Everton last week, which demonstrated just a different type of play we've come to see in Mikel Arteta's team. We're looking at today's game, though. The likes of Jesus, Saka and Rice were all taken off early in the second half of Wednesday's impressive 4-0 Champions League victory over PSV Eindhoven. They've all lined up today in an 11 that shows one change from last week, with Jesus replacing the injured Gabriel Martinelli. You're wondering, Leandro Trossard replaced the Brazilian on that day, but he misses out completely this time. He's got a late muscle injury, and along with Thomas Partey, misses the squad completely. David Raya continues to keep Aaron Ramsdale in goals, whilst Fabio Vieira is preferred in midfield to Kai Havertz. As for Tottenham, despite losing the North London derby's most prolific scorer in Harry Kane to Bayern Munich in the summer, new manager Ange Postecoglou has brought in a winning mentality and high work rate to Spurs' side in recent times has lacked consistency. 2-1 win over Sheffield United last week showed real signs of resolve, with Richarlison and Kozlowski scoring deep into stoppage time. After a full week off, though, no European commitments, the Australian made just one change as well, handing a first start to Brennan Johnson today in place of Manu Solomon, an otherwise settled 11 for Spurs. Arsenal have done the double in the fixture last season and are beaten in 5 in the Emirates. But for now, it's Arsenal 0, Tottenham 0, with about 4 minutes gone on the clock.
And Richard, just looking at the stats, unbelievable this really. Tottenham have won just one of their last 3-0, that is, Premier League away games at Arsenal, drawn 11 and lost 18. That's an awful record.
It's an incredible record. Stats mean nothing, though, when it comes to derby matches, as we've seen in all sorts of games. Ange Postecoglou, interestingly enough, has got a particularly good record at derbies, though. He come down from Celtic, where he won 11 out of 12 of his Old Firm derbies against Rangers, so he's not afraid of knowing how to present a team coming into these games. But Arsenal will go into the match as favourites with such a good record in recent times, but it's been an impressive start from Tottenham this season, so we're looking for a really entertaining game, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of goals.
Lots of goals then, according to Richard Bond. The big North London derby, Arsenal against Tottenham. We'll be covering that throughout the course of the afternoon here on Football Live on Brila FM. And just confirmation in the early stages in that game, Heung-min Son putting the ball into the back of the net, but flagged for offside. That's the first opportunity of the afternoon in the big North London derby. As we head to Anfield, let's get an update on Liverpool against West Ham. Our reporter there this afternoon is Molly Sumter.
Good afternoon, Chris. It's a big game in the Premier League today, as these two teams who have had certainly strong starts to the season go head-to-head. There's some team news just to begin for you. The visitors at West Ham are unchanged since the defeat against City. Liverpool, on the other hand, make two attacking changes, with Nunez coming in for Gakpo and Diaz in for Jota. That was the team that faced Wolves last week. Liverpool have a fabulous record against the Hammers. They'll be looking to continue that today and continue this brilliant start they've had to the season so far. Bit of a delayed kick-off here at Anfield, as the ref had a bit of an issue with his mic, few technical difficulties to begin with, but West Ham straight off the back have gone and attacked Liverpool straight away and getting really forward, attacking that defence. No good chances as of yet. It's about 2.5 minutes gone. It's Liverpool 0, West Ham 0.
So then goalless at the moment at Anfield. We will be heading very shortly to Jack Hessen for an update on Chelsea against Aston Villa. But there has been further goal news in our featured match in the Dutch Eredivisie this afternoon.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And I can tell you that Feyenoord have scored a third goal, although that is going to VAR apparently. I tell you what, let's get an update now from our reporter Michael Jeffries, who's watching that match for us this afternoon here on Football Live on Brila FM. Michael, it's been an explosive start for Feyenoord. Let's get an update from you on the opening, 40 minutes or so as we approach half-time.
Do you know what, Chris? It has been all Feyenoord so far, and all Santiago Jimenez, actually. He made this goal just now as well. Or Paxao, who's just there to tap it in, but he ran the whole length of the pitch to Porto. And in the previous two goals as well, he scored both, but they were created by two players, one from each team, really. First was created by Quinton Timber, who ran the length of the field, bodying one defender, running down Ajax's left flank, and then placing a perfect ball to Jimenez to smash into the roof of the goalkeeper's near post. But the second one is really quite unfortunate for Anton Gia, the right back of Ajax, who tried passing the ball back to his centre-back partnership of Sutalo and Hato, but completely misplaced the ball, lands with Jimenez, and Jimenez can run past them. The centre-back partnership couldn't cover and managed to score. Anton Gia has now been substituted off only 30 minutes in. Not a good day for him, but it's a great day for Jimenez, a great day so far for Feyenoord, with the scoreline being Ajax 0, Feyenoord 3.
And Michael, it seems as though they are running away with it at the moment, the defending champions. And just a word on Santiago Jimenez, 8 goals now for the campaign.
He's honestly looking absolutely lethal, Chris. He has made every attacking movement so far. He's just such a hungry number 9. Even with that second goal, yes, it's an error from Anton Gia, but he still had to do a lot of work. He had to get past the centre-backs. He had to have the composure to finish. And it looked effortless from him. He's looking really dangerous.
Thanks very much to our reporter Michael Jeffries there, reporting on Ajax against Feyenoord as they approach half-time in that game. It's still goalless in the North London derby between Arsenal and Tottenham. We'll be back with Richard Bond very, very shortly for further updates on that game. But let's head to Stamford Bridge now for the first time this afternoon. Chelsea at home to Aston Villa. So very good afternoon to Jack Hesson.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you, Chris. It has been a quiet start to the game at Stamford Bridge. 10 minutes and a couple of early chances from Chelsea. A shot from Caicedo saved comfortably by Martinez in goals. Chelsea will be hoping their dreadful start to the league season picks up today following that 0-0 draw over Bournemouth last weekend. They currently sit 14th place after just 5 games. They make 0 changes from that game and a full line-up then. So Sanchez starts and goals. A backline of Gusto, Dessel, Silva and Colwill. A midfield 2 of Conor Gallagher and Moses Caicedo, and a midfield 3 of Raheem Sterling, Enzo Fernandez and Mykhailo Mudryk. Nicholas Jackson leads the line. As for Aston Villa, they make a number of changes from that midweek defeat in the Conference League to Legia Warsaw, but 0 changes from the 3-1 league win over Crystal Palace last weekend. Some key players in there. Pau Torres playing at the back, Diaby and Zanolo in the midfield, Ollie Watkins leading the line. Villa won here by 2-0 last April. Chelsea cannot afford a repeat of that this afternoon, and they are looking in the early stages quite comfortable in the game so far, but of course that could change at any moment.
And it's well documented, Jack, that Chelsea are having huge problems at the moment, and the stats speak for themselves. Just 6 wins in their last 34 Premier League matches, and just 4 home league victories in their last 18. That was against Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Leeds and Luton Town.
Yep, absolutely. Add in to that the fact that they've spent over £1 billion since Todd Bowley took charge of the club, all on quite risky young youth players for a lot of money. If things are going to start happening for Chelsea, it's going to take years for the fruits of that £1 billion that they've spent to come to fruition. At the moment, it really is struggling. And again, another game, if they don't win today, if they potentially lose today, they slip further down the table. And for a club like Chelsea, that's just not acceptable. 12 minutes gone, it's still Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0.
Thanks very much, Jack. And as Jack pointed out, £1 billion pretty much invested in the current squad by Blues owner Todd Bowley, but certainly no signs yet that that vast investment is paying off. Let's head back to North London now. Arsenal against Tottenham, and rejoin Richard Bond and the further details of that early goal that was chalked off for Tottenham. Richard.
Yeah, it's Arsenal 0, Tottenham 0, and we've had about 11-12 minutes on the clock here, and Tottenham did have the ball in the back of the net. It was from a shot from James Maddison initially, and he shot from just about 20 yards out. Ball fell to Basuma. Then he's putting in the second shot. Then it's drilled towards the goal. It's fallen to Son, but he's a good 2 or 3 yards offside in the end when he's put the ball cleanly into the net. Since then, it's been all Spurs so far. Surprisingly to some, you could say, given recent times and the way Arsenal have been playing, they're not used to not having so much of the ball. But Tottenham have been looking very good in possession, and may I say a slightly nervy Arsenal start into this match. But very good play from Spurs at the moment. They're creating a little bit of chances. Arsenal trying still to settle in the game, but I think Brennan Johnson starting on the left-hand side seemed to cause a few problems there for Arsenal's right back Ben White. I think looking at Arsenal, they seem to be setting up with Gabriel Jesus on the left-hand side with Edin Tekir in the middle. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on without both Trossard and Martinelli. That might cause a bit of an imbalance for them and might need a few minutes just to get used to that. But at the moment, though, it's Arsenal 0, Tottenham 0 with 12 minutes gone.
Just confirmation that that third goal for Feyenoord in our featured match in the Dutch Eredivisie stands after a VAR check. So with about 5 minutes or so to go until half-time, it's Ajax 0, Feyenoord 3. Let's head now to the Amex for an update on Brighton against Bournemouth as we join Ash Sandiford.
Yeah, good afternoon, guys. Yeah, it's still currently Brighton 0, Bournemouth 0. It's a cracking, fast-paced start from Brighton, to be honest with you. They'll be looking to put across their misery from that 3-2 defeat midweek. So they've had 6 changes today, Brighton, from that game against Manchester United. The most alarming changes was the one that we have Mitoma is actually on the bench today. So Evan Ferguson comes in, which is quite a good replacement, to be fair, after his hat-trick that he scored earlier on in this season. So yeah, 6 changes for Brighton, so they really mixed things up. And as for Bournemouth, they've just gone with the one change. Justin Kluivert's coming for Dango Ouattara. But as it stands, it's still currently Brighton 0, Bournemouth 0.
So still goalless in all of our Premier League matches that kicked off at 2 o'clock, including, of course, the North London derby between Arsenal and Tottenham. It is goalless, as I mentioned, at Anfield. Of course, Liverpool against West Ham. However, the visitors have been creating a few opportunities early on in that game. Molly Sumter.
Yeah, Chris, it's been a great start from the away side here, really getting forward on that Liverpool defence. Antonio's just had a great chance, which has been saved. It went across Alisson's goal as a header in from a ball from Souček, but it just went wide of the post. I think these West Ham attack players are really causing some problems for the Liverpool defence, definitely giving them something to think about. Liverpool haven't really managed to get out and create too much as of yet. Really need to get out of their half and use those amazing attacking devices they've got in Salah, Nunez. Salah incredibly on form at the moment. I think he's scored or assisted in his last 11 consecutive Premier League matches, so they'll definitely be looking to take advantage of him today. But they haven't quite got started yet with the attack, Liverpool. West Ham definitely on the front foot in these opening stages. It's about 10 minutes gone. It's Liverpool 0, West Ham 0.
I can tell you that the match between Ajax and Feyenoord has been interrupted. Fireworks on the pitch, according to our reporter Michael Jeffries, as they approach half-time there. Feyenoord well in control with that 3-0 lead as we head back to North London. Arsenal against Tottenham. Here's Richard Bond.
Yeah, it's Arsenal 0, Tottenham 0, but good chance for Arsenal. And it was from Gabriel Jesus. It was a lovely bit of play by Bukayo Saka on the right-hand side. He's just jinked inside and out of the defender on Udogie on that side, and he's produced the ball with his left foot into the box. Basuma's gone to sleep. There's Jesus coming in at the back post. He's got a really nice shot on it. Good contact, smashes at a goal. But there's Vicario, who's been quite good in the Spurs goal this season, quite impressive to get a firm hand to palm it away. But that's the closest we've been to a goal so far with 15 minutes on the clock. But had a few really heavy challenges. Udogie just went straight through Saka, so he's in the book now. And also Odegaard has gone in the book too. So this is quite lively, starting to spice up a bit here. 16 minutes on the clock though. Arsenal 0, Tottenham 0.
Thanks very much to Richard Bond there. So still goalless in the big North London derby at the moment. Of course, we like to cover the Saudi Pro League here each and every weekend on Football Live on Brila FM. And what a big week it's been, as per usual, in the top league in Saudi football. Cristiano Ronaldo making the headlines, I believe, again this week. We got John Kane coming up next with all the latest news.
The Saudi Pro League on Football Live.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. And of course, the round 7 for the Saudi Pro League finished a couple of days ago. It's been very interesting scores this week. Most notably, probably the big game between Al Nassr and Al Ahli. Al Nassr won by 4-3. And that game saw Cristiano Ronaldo scoring twice. Talisca scoring twice as well for Al Nassr. As for Al Ahli, well, Frank Cassie, the ex-Barcelona player, has scored in the first half. Riyad Mahrez also was on the score sheet, but it was a very good win for Al Nassr, who literally didn't start well, but they are sort of playing catch up at the moment. The other big games were Damak against Al Hilal. It finished 1-0. Malcolm for Al Hilal, considering when the lineups of Al Hilal included Koulibaly, Neymar, Malcolm, Mitrovic, Milankovic, yet and Bono in goal as well, and yet the score was only 1-0. The other games as well, Al Ittihad, they beat Al Fatah by 2-1, and one of the goal scorers was N'Golo Kante, the ex-Chelsea player. As far as the results are concerned, Al Shabab, they scored by 4-1 against Al Hazm. Carrasco, the ex-Atletico Madrid player, was one of the goal scorers on that goal game. Al Wahda beat Abha by 4-0. Ukhdud lost to Al Khalij by 0-0 at home. And Al Ta'awan won by 2-1 against Al Ra'id. And of course, Al Ittifaq won by 4-3. The team was managed by Steven Gerrard. And that leaves Al Ittihad top of the league after 7 rounds with 18 points. second, Al Hilal with 17 points. Al Ta'awan, who are doing very well with 16 points. Likewise, Al Ittifaq, who are joint fourth. And Nasser are 15th with 15 points. And Al Ahly are also on 15 points.
I'll tell you what a stunning goal as well from N'Golo Kante. He's first in the Saudi Pro League, of course, following his summer move. Many thanks to John Kane. We have our very first goal of the afternoon in the Premier League.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And Mo Salah has converted from the penalty spot to give Liverpool the advantage in that game. It's Liverpool 1, West Ham 0. Molly Sumter will be providing us with all the details on that. In fact, let's head over to Molly straight away now. Molly.
It's a really, really silly mistake. Salah is on the attack, on the run through. And as a West Ham defender, of course, you're going to panic. But it is a moment of madness from him. And he's purely just stuck his leg out. So Salah's run is disrupted. And Salah, of course, as you would, has gone down in the box. In terms of the penalty, no problem for him at all. Coolly slotted into the West Ham goal. Areola had absolutely no chance. Had the perfect accuracy, but perfect power on it as well. Liverpool 1-0 up. Probably a bit of a kick in the teeth to the West Ham fans, as their team have played quite well in these opening stages. But as it stands, it's 16 minutes in. Liverpool 1, West Ham 0.
And it's the third goal of the Premier League season then for Mo Salah, as Liverpool lead West Ham there by 1-0 at Anfield. Let's get an update on all the latest news from the Amex. Brighton against Bournemouth. Here's Ash Sandiford.
Yeah, currently as it stands, still Brighton 0, Bournemouth 0. But it was a great chance on the counter-attack from Bournemouth in the end. It's Justin Kluivert. He's kind of gone down the left-hand side and he's got himself near enough just on the edge of the 18-yard backs, and he's cut it back to Ryan Christie. Ryan Christie's flashed it just wide of the post. It's a great counter-attack from Brighton from Bournemouth, because Brighton have had most and the majority of the possession so far. Those 20 minutes have gone. But yeah, as it stands, still Brighton 0, Bournemouth 0, but great counter-attack play from Bournemouth at the moment.
That's how things are panning out at the moment on the south coast of England, but still goalless at the Amex as we head back to Stamford Bridge now for an update on Chelsea against Aston Villa. Jack Hesson.
Oh, Chris, Aston Villa nearly scored one of the goals of the season. Corner whipped in, cleared at the front post by Chelsea. It lands for Lucas Digne so beautifully to hit it on the volley. He strikes it so well. It's got the power, it's got the dip. It looks destined for the goal, but it forced a great save by Robert Sanchez to deny the goal for Aston Villa. Really should have been a goal, but great goalkeeping from Robert Sanchez. 22 minutes played. It's still Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0.
So let's just run through the latest scores once again for you then that we have at the moment in the Premier League. In those 2 o'clock kickoffs, it's still goalless in the North London derby. Arsenal 0, Tottenham 0, Brighton 0, Bournemouth 0, Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0, as you just heard there from Jack Hesson. And the only goal of the afternoon we have so far in the Premier League has come at Anfield. Liverpool leading West Ham by 1-0. And it's Mo Salah converting there from the penalty spot to give Jurgen Klopp's side the lead. There was, of course, plenty of action as ever, and you called it all here on Football Live yesterday. Defending champions Manchester City maintaining their 100% start to the Premier League campaign following that 2-0 win at home to Nottingham Forest with Phil Foden and Erling Haaland on target within the first 15 minutes of that match. But the results for City was tainted, of course, by the sending off of Rodri just seconds after the restart, as he was shown a straight red for violent conduct. Elsewhere yesterday, Burnley 0, Manchester United 1 is how it ended at Turf Moor. The problems mounting for newly promoted Burnley as they were beaten at home by United, still in search, of course, of their first win this season. The Bruno Fernandes volley on the stroke of half-time, relieving some of the pressure on under-fire United boss Erik ten Hag. Here is the United manager now on that Bruno Fernandes goal.
A great goal. It was massive how we outplayed that. Attract over the right, bring the ball back, and then brilliant pass, brilliant movement, and a brilliant finish. We have problems, and in this moment, a lot is against us about injuries, decisions, and I think we have all seen the examples. But then, we are very happy that you have a player as Johnny Evans in the squad. He comes in, he's calm, he's composed, he has character, and he has a good skill set.
Elsewhere yesterday, Everton secured the first victory of their season with an impressive 3-1 win at Brentford. Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring the third goal of the game, putting the game beyond doubt. And that win, incidentally, took Everton out of the bottom 3 and up to 15th spot. Brentford certainly finding it tougher in their second season in the top flight, with just one victory so far this season. Here is Sean Dyche on Everton's 3 points at the G-Tech Stadium yesterday.
And today I thought it was a performance like the Fulham performance, like the Wolves performance, very strong performance, Sheffield United. The signs have been there, but as we know, you've got to change the storyline. The biggest thing I was pleased with today was more the fact that first half was sort of that weird same old story when you go, right, we've created 4 or 5 unbelievable chances and we come in at 1-1, bit of a head scratcher, but I've had that this season. And then to be so calm and go and deliver a second half again, because we all know half time can change how a game's working, I thought was very pleasing. You know, over the whole performance, I'm very pleased with that.
Everton boss Sean Dyche there following the 3-1 win at Brentford yesterday. We have a couple of goals to tell you about in the Premier League, and including one in the North London derby.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
The deadlock has been broken there. Arsenal have taken the lead. It's Arsenal 1, Tottenham 0. We'll be getting all the details very shortly from the Emirates with Football Live reporter Richard Bond, and further goal news this time from the Amex.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Well, our reporter who's covering that game for us this afternoon, Ash Sandiford, told us when we were last with him that Bournemouth was certainly creating some opportunities, and they have taken the lead in that game. It's Brighton 0, Bournemouth 1, and Dominic Solanke in the 25th minute has opened the scoring there. First of all, let's head back to the North London derby now. Let's get news of that goal for Arsenal. Here's Richard Bond.
Well, it's Arsenal 1, Tottenham 0 with 25 minutes on the clock, and Arsenal scoring on the counter-attack. It was a really good move, but I tell you what, I think it might be going down as an own goal, this one. It was a lovely little break. It all started with Zinchenko on the left-hand side. He found Vieira, spread the ball across to Saka. He's been giving Udogie a really hard time this afternoon. His run then, he cut right inside. He formed a shot on his left foot. He's drilled a curling effort, and it's just come off Romero, diverted past the goalkeeper, and gone into the back of the net. Oh, I tell you what, I think that would have been saved if Romero hadn't got that touch there. But crucial blow for Arsenal against Tottenham here midway through the first half. Arsenal 1, Tottenham 0.
Thanks very much, Richard, and confirmation that goal has been attributed as an own goal to Romero. So Arsenal leading Tottenham by 1-0. Let's get to all the details of that opening goal at the Amex. Brighton against Bournemouth. Here's Ash Sandiford.
Yeah, it's Brighton 0, Bournemouth 1, and it's a poor mistake from the standing goalkeeper today, Bart Verbergen. He had plenty of time and options to kind of relax and kind of pick out a player. He's got no one. And then Ryan Christie decided, you know what, I'm going to press you and close you down. So he's closed him down. Ryan Christie just nicked the ball just off him, and it's just come out. It's unbelievable stuff from the goalkeeper. I cannot believe he's made this such a poor error. And it's a great little finish from Dominic Solanke. All he's done is just chipped it over the goalkeeper, really into an empty net. So it's been a poor start from Brighton after their poor midweek result that they had in the Europa League. But they'll be really trying to get themselves back on track. But as it stands, it's Brighton 0, Bournemouth 1.
So let's just recap all the latest scores that we have for you then in the Premier League this Sunday afternoon. Arsenal 1, Tottenham 0. An own goal from Romero. It's Brighton 0, Bournemouth 1. Dominic Solanke opening Bournemouth's account this afternoon. Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0, and Liverpool 1, West Ham 0. Mo Salah from the penalty spot. You are listening to Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live.
Sports Radio 88.9 Brila FM.
Take Brila anywhere, everywhere.
Yes, you can take Brila with you anywhere, everywhere.
The Brila app is available for free download on Google Play. It is also there on the Apple iTunes Store. Yes, on Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store.
Look out for the Brila football and microphone logo with the letters BRILA in green colour.
That is our authentic app. It gives you Brila FM, Brila.net, Brilasports.tv, and all the extra betting tips, live score, plus our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google Plus, and YouTube posts.
Sports fun. You can post your videos and eyewitness reports.
Brila, B-R-I-L-A. Available for download on Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store.
You are listening to Football Live. Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
The Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brila FM with Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM 88.9 and 101.1 FM.
Secure an instant win with NairaBet when your team leads by 2 goals in the match. How many times has one of your betting selections had a meltdown after going 2 goals up? Don't stress. With our new 2 goals up market, if your selection goes 2 or more goals ahead at any stage in the match, then your selection will be settled as a winner, regardless of the final match result. Place your bets on the 2 goals up football market at www.nairabet.com. Include the 2 goals up selections in your bet slip with as many other selections as you want. For more details, check out our promotions page. Full terms and conditions apply. Must be over 18. Bets placed on the match winner market do not qualify. Markets available on pre-match bets only. Please gamble responsibly.
You are listening to Football Live.
Coming up next Saturday on Football Live with Josh Bailey. Manchester United taking on Crystal Palace. Liverpool go to Tottenham Hotspur. Live and exclusive on Brila FM. Let's get back to the action on Football Live.
Hit it, boys.
Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
And welcome back to Football Live. No further goals to tell you about in the Premier League. Still Arsenal leading Tottenham by 1-0. Bournemouth still 1 up at Brighton. Liverpool still 1 up at home to West Ham. And it remains goalless between Chelsea and Aston Villa. Just a reminder, in just over 20 minutes time or so, we will be joining Tony and the crew in Nigeria for all of your social media comments. So much to discuss this afternoon, not least, of course, concerning events taking place in that North London derby. And just a reminder that around about 4:25 or so this afternoon here on Football Live, we will be joined by NairaBet's Ayo Alabi as we look ahead to all of the betting opportunities for the later Premier League kickoff between Sheffield United and Newcastle, which of course gets underway at 4:30. Right, let's go around the grounds once again now, just to confirm that in our feature match in the Dutch Eredivisie, the match has been resumed there following an interruption in play between Ajax and Feyenoord due to fireworks on the pitch, but we're approaching half-time. Play has resumed and it remains Ajax 0, Feyenoord 3. We'll be getting a report on that match probably around about half-time with Michael Jeffries here on Football Live. Right, let's go around the grounds, as I say, once again. And, of course, we're going to, first of all, stop in and check in at the Emirates for all of the latest news from Arsenal against Tottenham as we rejoin Richard Bond.
Oh, big chance for Arsenal. And I tell you what, it was all of Tottenham's making. They're trying to play out from the back. The keeper had the ball. He's played it out to the full-back. He's pushed it back. He's given the ball back to James Maddison's trying to get it right on the edge of the penalty area, but he's been caught by Gabriel Jesus. He's nicked the ball off him really quickly, tries to take a snapshot, and he's just not really got the connection on. He's flown over the bar. But I tell you what, he might have had a bit more time there, and I think perhaps he should have done better with the opportunity. But it's small little things in these sort of games that can really get an advantage for the team. It's been quite an even game so far. Even though Arsenal have the lead, Tottenham have had quite a lot of possession at times. And the difference being for me really is the two full-backs for Tottenham. They're just giving Arsenal way too much space and time, particularly Ndogi on that left-back position. Saka is just having space and time just to deliver balls into the box, and Jesus on the other side. We're not used to seeing him play in that sort of role on that left, more centrally at times, but it's just too easy when they do have the ball there. But like I say, it is quite even at the moment, though. But for the minute, though, 33 minutes on the clock, it's Arsenal 1, Tottenham 0.
But the Gunners still with that narrow lead at the moment, as we alluded to. Tottenham really do have the most horrendous record at Arsenal in recent years. In fact, their last Premier League win at the Emirates was way back in November 2010. Our producer John Kane won't thank me for reminding him about that one. It was a 3-2 win on that occasion with goals from Gareth Bale, Rafael van der Vaart and Yunus Kabul on that occasion. That was the last time they took all 3 points at the Emirates. Any further developments from North London this afternoon, you will hear about it here on Football Live on Brila FM. Let's head back now to Anfield for an update on Liverpool against West Ham. Molly Sumter.
I think Liverpool have definitely found their feet a little bit since that penalty goal from Salah. Definitely playing a lot more attacking football. West Ham appear to have backed off a little bit, though. They're giving Liverpool a lot of space to get shots into the box, crosses in as well, which I think could be a mistake, and they might kick themselves for it because they are getting close to Liverpool. McAllister has had a chance on the edge of the box, long-range shot. He's been left in loads of space. I think with just a little bit more time, he maybe would have found the back of the net, but it's gone just wide of the left of Areola's goal. West Ham haven't really managed to get back into it since that penalty, which is a shame for them because they were really playing well and with a lot of energy in the opening 20 minutes. And it feels as though that penalty against the run of play has kind of killed it a little bit for them. It is quite a tasty game, though. A few cards might be coming out soon, with a lot of players sliding in for tackles that, could be deemed a little bit dangerous here and there, but it's shaping up to be a great game. We've got 32 minutes on the clock. It's Liverpool 1, West Ham 0.
Thanks very much, Molly Sumter. We'll be reviewing further action that took place in the Premier League yesterday, and also reviewing the action that's taken place in the top European leagues a little bit later on. I can tell you that in Italian Serie A, there's a couple of matches currently in progress. Atalanta are leading Cagliari by 1-0. Ademola Lookman has just scored for Atalanta, so they are 1-up in that game. And in the other match currently taking place, Fiorentina are 1-up at Udinese. Our feature match later on in Italian Serie A kicks off at 5 p.m. Bologna at home to Napoli. Right, let's continue to go around the Premier League grounds, though, here on Football Live. Our next port of call is Stamford Bridge for an update on Chelsea against Aston Villa. Here's Jack Hesson.
Yeah, 37 minutes played. It is still Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0, but a few minutes ago Chelsea had perhaps the best opportunity of the game so far. The ball came to Mudryk on the left-hand side. He had a lot of space and a lot of time to think about what he had to do next. He spots the run of Nicholas Jackson towards the penalty area, plays a perfect pass. Jackson makes a perfect run, splits the Aston Villa defence. Nicholas Jackson, goal at his mercy, tries to hit it in at the near post and forces Martinez into a great save. That has really been the best chance of the game so far, and we are still stalemate at the moment. 38 minutes played. It's still Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0.
And it's the only goalless game that we have, of course, in the Premier League. Let's head back to the match that's taking place on the south coast of England. Brighton against Bournemouth. It was a bad week, wasn't it, for Brighton, as our reporter Ash Sanford mentioned earlier, when they, of course, were beaten by AEK Athens at the Amex 3-2 in midweek in their very first ever European match, and it's not going their way at the moment, Ash.
Yeah, certainly not. It's still Brighton 0, Bournemouth 1. This battle of the coastline. These teams only situated just a little 90 miles away, so it's not a far journey for kind of Bournemouth to travel back home. But to be honest with you, Bournemouth have just gathered more and more confidence throughout this game. It's just been a really solid performance. They're trying to play on the counter-attack at the moment, and Brighton are trying to force the issue. Veltman's just got himself a booking from lashing into a couple of challenges, about 2 or 3 in a row. It's quite a tasty encounter, to be honest with you, between these two teams. Lots of challenges going in, but lots of passion as well between both of them. And And Roberto De Zerbi's team would really wants to get himself really back on track because they've had a fantastic start to the Premier League, playing 5 games, winning 4, and only losing 1. So they've had a cracking start. So he would not like to lose this game because there's plenty of other big games to come. But as it stands, it's Brighton 0, Bournemouth 1.
So Bournemouth still edging that game as it stands at the moment. Let's just run through some of the other latest scores from around Europe. At present, I can tell you that in the German Bundesliga, Leverkusen are leading Heidenheim by a 1-0 there. If they can clinch all 3 points this afternoon, Leverkusen, it would move them up to second spot in the table. We'll be reviewing some of the Bundesliga action that's taken place this weekend a little bit later on. Harry Kane, of course, with a hat-trick yesterday in that 7-0 thrashing, of course, for Bayern Munich of Bochum. Elsewhere, other latest scores to give you in the Dutch Eredivisie. A result from earlier on today: Sparta Rotterdam 1, Vitesse 0. They've reached half-time finally at the Johan Cruyff Arena, where it's Ajax 0, Feyenoord 3. We'll be getting a half-time report from Michael Jeffries on that game very shortly here on Football Live. Elsewhere from around Europe, in La Liga, Real Sociedad are currently 3-2 up at home to Getafe. In Italian Serie A, I just gave you a couple of latest scores there. Let's just recap them for you. Atalanta 1, Cagliari 0. Adamola Lookman with the only goal of the game so far there, 5 minutes before the break. He scored a bit before that, but we have about 5 minutes to go in the first half. And also Udinese 0, Fiorentina 1, a latest there. Our feature much later on today, Napoli at Bologna. In French League 1, a result from earlier on today, Metz 0, Strasbourg 1. And a couple of latest scores as they approach half-time. Le Havre 2, Clermont 0, Lens 0, Toulouse 1. And finally, in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, a result to give you from earlier on, a cracking game between Ghent and Saint-Truiden, where it ended 3 apiece in that game, and a hat-trick for Genk in that match for Aboubakary Koita. He scored all 3 goals for the visitors there in that 3-all draw. So you're up to date from all of the latest news from around Europe. Let's get all the latest betting news as well now from John Kane.
The latest in-play betting odds from NairaBet.
Yes, the latest odds from NairaBet. Of course, all these prices are subject to change, and I can tell you that I think, let's go back to Chris, because I think there's a goal at the Emirates.
And confirmation that there is a goal at the Emirates. John, we'll be back with John and the latest betting very shortly. But the betting obviously suspended now with NairaBet on Arsenal against Tottenham because...
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And Postecoglou's side have equalised as they approach half-time there. It's now Arsenal 1, Tottenham 1, a match that is very nicely poised indeed. Son with the goal for Tottenham, 3 minutes before the break. Richard Bond will be painting us the picture of that goal very shortly here on Football Live on Brila FM. But it is now Arsenal 1, Tottenham 1. Let's head back to John very briefly now for an update on the latest betting news. John. In fact, I'll tell you what, before we get back to John, let's cross back to Richard Bond at the Emirates for news of that goal for Tottenham. Richard.
Unbelievable scenes here at the Emirates. It's Arsenal 1, Tottenham 1. They've just been coming back into the game. They had a great chance just a few minutes earlier. I'll tell you about that in a sec. But it's Heung-min Son who's managed to get the equaliser. Lovely bit of play down the left-hand side. It was James Maddison who picked the ball up after a neat move on the right. But he's twisted back inside. He's laid the ball back to Son. And he's picked the ball up and he's just dipped it into the far corner of the net, past Raya, right in the precise finishing. Son at his best, beats 3 defenders, I think, around him when he's taking this shot. It's just showing how quick he is to get to the ball on that one. So we're 1-1. David Raya, about a couple of minutes earlier, made an absolute outstanding save just to keep the score at 1-0 at the time. Pulling off, it was a remarkable save from Brennan Johnson. I was just thinking, would Harry Kane have put that one in? But it doesn't matter at the moment, though, because they're back level now. It's Arsenal 1, Tottenham 1.
So it's all level then in the big North London derby between Arsenal and Tottenham. We'll be back with Richard Bond very, very shortly for further updates on that game. I can tell you in the match at Stamford Bridge, the ball has been in the back of the net there for Chelsea. However, it's been ruled out for offside. So it remains Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0. Jack Hesson will be giving us all the details on that very, very shortly here on Football Live. Just a reminder, in about just over 10 minutes time or so, we head back to Nigeria for all of your social media comments. But let's continue to go around the grounds. And first of all, let's just check back in now with Jack Hesson at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea against Aston Villa. As I just mentioned, Jack, Chelsea getting the ball in the back of the net. We'll be back with Jack very, very shortly. However, further goal news from the Premier League, and it's another goal at Anfield.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
West Ham are back on level terms with a goal 3 minutes before the break there. They've got the most horrendous record against Liverpool over the last few decades. However, it's now 1-1. Liverpool 1, West Ham 1. Jarrad Bowen with a goal, the equalising goal there for the Hammers. News of that from Molly Sumter very shortly here on Football Live. But first of all, let's head back to Jack Hesson now at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea against Aston Villa. Can you give us all the details of that goal that was ruled out for Chelsea? Jack?
Yes, I can. The ball was in the back of the net from Axel Disasi, the centre-half for Chelsea, but it was a very clear offside and the linesman was quick to act on it. It was from the short corner, fell to Sterling on the edge of the area, and he was just too quick. It's a great ball into the box. You could argue that maybe if it was just a yard lower, he would have got the ball anyway, but it was that yard in front of the Aston Villa defender, and ball in the back of the net. He was frustrated, but it was a clear offside. There has been chances for both sides this afternoon. Mikhailo Mudryk just a couple of minutes ago put the ball across the box, no one getting on the end of it. A great chance from Zaniolo a couple of minutes ago, also in the volley, about 10 yards from goal, forces Sanchez into a great save. So for a 0-0, this has been a great game so far. On the cusp of half time, 45 minutes played, it's still Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0.
You are listening to Football Live. Let's get news of that equalising goal for West Ham at Anfield. Here's Molly Sumter.
It's completely gone against the run of play again. Liverpool looking like they were definitely the team on top, but West Ham have managed to hit them on the counter-attack. Antonio's just nodded the ball out to Kufal, who's then whipped it in, and a diving Jarrad Bowen has found the back of the net with it. It's gone through the bottom left corner, I believe. You could say Alisson's a bit slow, but I think the problem here is the defence. He's been given way too much space by Van Dijk and gotten to that ball way too easily. But it's West Ham 1 and Liverpool 1 with 42 minutes on the clock.
And the goals are absolutely flying in the Premier League as we approach half-time, because there's been another goal at the Amex.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Into first half stoppage time, Brighton have equalised. Brighton 1, Bournemouth 1 is now the latest score at the Amex. Getting news from Stamford Bridge that there's a VAR check at Chelsea for a possible red card for Raheem Sterling. Further goal news to tell you about from Anfield.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Well, quite incredible was I think we had to wait, about 20 minutes or so for our first Premier League goal this afternoon. But they, as I said, they are flying in now at the moment. And Liverpool have gone ahead against West Ham deep into first half stoppage time. It's now Liverpool 2, West Ham 1. Although that is also going to VAR, I believe. So stand by for that. There is a VAR check on that Liverpool goal. And we'll bring you that very, very shortly. In fact, I can tell you that goal has been ruled out. It was scored by Curtis Jones, but it's been ruled out for offside. So it remains, much to the relief, no doubt, of the travelling West Ham support, it remains Liverpool 1, West Ham 1 as we approach half-time in that game. Let's head back to Ash Sandiford for details of that equalising goal. Brighton against Bournemouth.
Yeah, it's Brighton 1, Bournemouth 1, and it's gone against the run of play, to be honest with you, because Bournemouth were getting back. Well, Bournemouth really were starting to control the game to the later stages of this first half, but it was breaking play on the left-hand side, and Billy Gilmour tried to whip the ball in towards the back post, and I think just trying to work out who it was, I think it was Max Aarons, or Milos Kirkek. He literally tried to head the ball out, obviously to get the ball out of play, and he's actually put it into the back of his own net behind the goalkeeper. So really disappointed, especially only just before half-time. So as it stands, it's Brighton 1, Bournemouth 1, 47 minutes in.
Let's get details of that Liverpool goal that was ruled out just a few minutes ago against West Ham. Is Molly Sumpter.
Yeah, the Liverpool fans' celebrations cut short there. There was a whipped-in ball from Robertson. It was a great ball into the box, and Curtis Jones just manages to bring it down and then hit it on the half volley into the back of the net. But he is a step offside, very, very close, and could have been a brilliant goal for them. But he is, as we said, probably about an inch or two offside. So it's a shame, but like you said, Chris, West Ham fans will be breathing a sigh of relief there and hoping to get themselves back into this game once more. 45 minutes on the clock. Liverpool 1, West Ham 1.
Raheem Sterling came pretty close, we believe, to getting a red card in the match between Chelsea against Aston Villa, but it wasn't given. Jack Hesson.
Yeah, it's half-time at Stamford Bridge, and I will just talk through what happened at the end there between Luca Digne and Raheem Sterling. It was Luca Digne that actually fouled Raheem Sterling, initially dragged him to the ground, but after he dragged him to the ground, his nose was gushing with blood. He went over to the referee, was adamant that he got caught in the face, and the VAR then decided to have a look at it. They looked at it on the monitor. I believe they showed it on the big screen at Stamford Bridge as well, but nothing was given. I think it was a difficult one to see whether or not he was caught, but what was certain was that his nose was gushing with blood after Raheem Sterling ran past him after he brought him down for the foul. Apart from that, it's been a really interesting 0-0 game. There's been chances on both ends. That great chance at the start of the game from Luca Digne, the volley, great save from Robert Sanchez. Then Mudryk played in Nicholas Jackson. It was a one-on-one in goal. Great goalkeeping from Emiliano Martinez. Denied Nicholas Jackson, and then Chelsea did have the ball in the net with Axel Disasi from the short corner. Sterling, great ball delivered into the box, but he's just about a half yard offside, and it was overturned fairly quickly. And you know, if it's fairly quickly overturned by VAR standards, then it must have been offside. So yeah, really interesting game so far, really open end-to-end game. When both sides have the ball, they both look really dangerous in the attacking fronts. And yeah, bring it on second half. Stamford Bridge half-time, Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0.
Half-time whistle has also gone at the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal against Tottenham, and an entertaining first half by all accounts. Richard Bond.
Yeah, very entertaining half. It's half-time here at the Emirates. It's Arsenal 1, Tottenham 1. In a breathless at times 45 minutes. Arsenal took the lead midway through that first half when Bukayo Saka's curling effort was stabbed past his own keeper by Christian Romero. Arsenal looked good value at times, but it would be Spurs who would come back into the game in the 42nd minute, with Heung-min Son placing a well-timed effort into the bottom corner after nice work by James Maddison on the left-hand side to pick out his clever run. David Raya made a splendid save from Brennan Johnson minutes before, whilst Guglielmo Vicario denied Gabriel Jesus at the other end earlier in the game. Chances at either end, but it's even Stevens at half-time. It's Arsenal 1, Tottenham 1.
Is it also even Stevens at half-time in the match at the Amex? Brighton against Bournemouth. Here's Ash Sandiford.
Yeah, certainly is even Stevens between Brighton and Bournemouth. It's Brighton 1, Bournemouth 1, and Bournemouth will be really, really disappointed that they've conceded just in the last minute of that first half. It started off with a really fantastic counter-attack from Bournemouth in the end, really closing down the play on a lot of occasions when Brighton have got the ball between their back four. And it was a silly mistake from Bart Verbergen to keep the ball, but trying to dawdle him, to be honest with you, on the ball, trying to keep the ball for way too long. He's tried to play it out from the back, shouldn't have done it. Really good closing down from Ryan Christie. In the end, it was a fantastic finish from Dominic Solanke just to chip the ball over the goalkeeper into an empty net. And as I said about that critical goal just in the last few moments of this first half from Brighton, Roberto De Zerbi, who will be really, really disappointed with his team, but they'll be excellently happy to get himself back into the game with a great goal. Really, to be honest with you, disappointed own goal from Kirketz from Bournemouth. But in the end, Brighton will be looking to get this game wrapped up in the second half with dominating the possession in that first half again. But as it stands at the Amex, it's Brighton 1, Bournemouth 1.
And they've also reached the half-time interval finally at Anfield. Liverpool against West Ham. Molly Sumpter.
Yeah, again, a great half of football here at Anfield. Each team have had their spells within this game, but you would say Liverpool probably the slightly better side in the opening 45 minutes. Salah, of course, opening the scoring with that penalty, a really silly mistake from the West Ham defender. Jarrod Bowen, though, bringing the Hammers back level, which in the opening 20 minutes you would have said that that's how the game should have gone. West Ham definitely on the front foot from the get-go, but Liverpool have managed to get themselves into gear and have picked up in the closing stages of that first half. Curtis Jones did find the back of the net from an offside position though, and Liverpool going into half-time looking much stronger. Chances coming from McAllister, Nunez getting in there as well, and Diaz delivering some brilliant balls into the box. It's setting up to be a great second half of football. Both teams level at the half-time. Liverpool 1, West Ham 1.
So you're up to date with all of the half-time reports in the Premier League this afternoon here on Football Live. And with the time at 2:55, we now head back over to Tony and the crew in Nigeria for all of your social media comments on all the action that's taken place over the course of the weekend. And of course, plenty, I'm sure, to discuss concerning the North London derby, where at half-time it is Arsenal 1, Tottenham 1. Tony, over to you.
Let's get back to the action on Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
And indeed, welcome back to Football Live. Many thanks to our colleagues in Nigeria. And what a great start to the second half for Brighton, because there's further goal news from the Amex.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Let's head straight over to Ash Sandyford.
Oh, what a fantastic start for Brighton. It's Brighton 2, Bournemouth 1. An absolute fantastic high pressure, high counter goal from Brighton and Hove Albion. It all started from Danny Welbeck, to be honest with you. Straight from the kickoff. This is a goal that happened 36 seconds into this second half. Danny Welbeck sets the tone, I should say, with a great bit of pressure straight away, closing down that Bournemouth first half that Bournemouth second half kickoff. It flicks into the air and the defenders kind of panic, and in the end it's Mitoma. He kind of gets in. He's just come on, to be honest with you, Mitoma. He's just literally come on the field at half time, and he's come and snuck in between the two defenders and just toe poked it in the bottom of the corner of the net. It's a great finish, and it's a perfect start to this second half for Brighton. It's Brighton 2, Bournemouth 1.
Yeah, great start for the Seagulls then. We'll be heading to North London again, to the Emirates, for an update on Arsenal against Tottenham, where they've resumed the second half there. Just to give you an update on our feature match in the Dutch Eredivisie, they did finally reach half-time in the match between Ajax and Feyenoord. Feyenoord carrying that 3-0 lead into the break. The second half did get underway, but it's been interrupted again. I suspect probably more fireworks. We'll try and cross over to Michael Jeffries very shortly. But let's head now, as promised, back to the Emirates. Arsenal against Tottenham, and some substitution news for us there. Richard Bond.
Yeah, a couple of subs for Arsenal at half-time, and it's Havertz and Jorginho, the two ex-Chelsea players who've come on for Vieira and Rice. Vieira was struggling in midfield in the first half. He took up a really heavy knock after a challenge with James Maddison, so that one's not really so much of a surprise to me. But Declan Rice, I'm not sure about that. I mean, you guess it's an injury, but Jorginho's on nonetheless. No change for Spurs. They lined up with the same 11 at the start of the first half. It's been all Arsenal really as such in this first 3 minutes of the second half. They've had a lot of possession, particularly looking at the flanks again. I think is a clear game plan from Mikel Arteta this afternoon to try and expose Spurs when Spurs have got the ball going forward, breaking with the likes of Saka and Jesus, like very much in the first half. So it looks like the same sort of game plan for Arsenal, but those couple of changes. But at the moment, 4 minutes in the second half, Arsenal 1, Tottenham 1.
Well, the only Premier League game where we don't have a goal at the moment is, of course, at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea against Aston Villa. Are we coming any closer? Jack Hesson.
Yeah, Chelsea were extremely close to breaking the deadlock just a couple of minutes ago. We're 6 minutes into the second half. It is still Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0. But it was such a simple play for Chelsea. The ball, Thiago Silva at the back line just decides to play a beautiful ball over the top towards Raheem Sterling. It's Raheem Sterling versus Lucas Digne to get the ball. Sterling wins that battle. He advances towards the box. It's a tight angle. He takes a bit of a bad touch, and then he's too close to Martinez. Gets the shot away, but it is right at Martinez. Martinez, to his credit, still has to make a good save out of it. So Chelsea coming close here. 53 minutes gone. It's still Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0.
News coming in from the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal have a potential penalty. It's gone to VAR for a handball, I believe. We'll be getting all the news from Richard Bond, hopefully very shortly. But a VAR decision being made as we speak at the Emirates. A possible penalty for Arsenal. Handball, Christian Romero. What an awful afternoon he's having at the moment. But we will update you very, very shortly on that. In fact, let's cross to Richard now. Richard, can you furnish us with all the details about that?
Yeah, I can do. And it was a corner that came in for Arsenal from the right-hand side. If the ball, after a bit of a pinball going on in the box, fell to Ben White. He swiveled a shot at goal after controlling his chest, and it's just, Romero's got his hand up as he's shot. It's gone straight into his hand. I'm thinking this will be a penalty, but after a long deliberation at the moment, we're still waiting to see what the referee's thinking on this one. So you might want to come back to me in a minute just to double check.
We will do just that. A wretched afternoon for Christian Romero as VAR still look into that possible penalty. Further news of that to follow. Let's head back now to Anfield for details of the early exchanges in the second half. Liverpool against West Ham. Molly Sumter.
I think it's been very, very similar to a lot of the first half, these opening few stages of the second half, I think what we did see in the first half was a lot of shots from either side, but having a look at some of the stats at half time, Liverpool 11 shots, West Ham 7, but each team only 2 on target. So whilst it's been very end-to-end, very attacking from either side, nothing really coming too close to trouble the keepers. Of course, both of those potentially, the goals as well. I think in these opening moments, Liverpool looking again the stronger side. They went into half-time looking extremely strong, but West Ham looking quite confident now as well to deal with it. So we'll have to see how it goes. It's 48 minutes on the clock. Liverpool 1, West Ham 1.
Confirmation that Arsenal have been awarded a penalty after the VAR review. So the penalty has been given. Arsenal against Tottenham. It looks as though Bukayo Saka is going to take responsibility for that. So we'll bring you news of that very, very shortly. Arsenal potentially could be going ahead for the second time in that match, in that big game, the big North London derby. Always a standout fixture, of course, in the calendar. And goal news from the Emirates.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And Bukayo Saka has indeed converted from the penalty spot. Arsenal have regained the lead. It's Arsenal 2, Tottenham 1. All the details of that from Richard Bond very, very shortly. But let's just check back in now with Ash Sandiford at the Amex. Brighton against Bournemouth for an update on all the events taking place on the south coast of England. Ash.
Yeah, still a little shady this second half, but there was a half chance for Bournemouth, to be honest with you. Still Brighton 2, Bournemouth 1. It's a great down the right-hand side. Max Aarons kind of done a couple of step-overs and tried to really confuse the defender. In the end, he did, and gave it to Philip Billing, and Philip Billing just curled it just round the edge of the post. It's a great opportunity, to be honest with you, and Bournemouth will be really disappointed in Philip Billing after his 150th appearance for the club today. He'll be disappointed that he didn't hit the target. But as it stands, still currently Brighton 2, Bournemouth 1.
Let's get details of that second goal for Arsenal from the penalty spot. Bukayo Saka, Richard Bond.
Yeah, it's Arsenal 2, Tottenham 1, and it's Bukayo Saka with the second goal for Arsenal from the penalty spot. Cool as you like. Saka stands up, drills it straight down the middle with the keeper diving to the left-hand side and just got his hands in the air. It's going to be a bit to come back now for Tottenham, but it's 2-1 at the moment. Long way to go, though. 53 minutes on the clock.
Details coming through from Stamford Bridge. We have a red card in that game. It has been confirmed, and Malo Gusto has been sent off for Chelsea. Let's get all the details of that from our reporter, Jack Hesson. In fact, before we go there, I can tell you we have another goal at the Emirates to tell you about.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
and you are always assured of goals between the big North London giants. Tottenham have drawn level for the second time in the game. It's now Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2, and Son Heung-min has scored his second goal of the game there for Spurs. So Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2 is now the latest from the Emirates Stadium. Let's hear all about that equalising goal for Tottenham from Richard Bond.
My, oh my, oh my. It's Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2. Well, could you believe it? And it's Son Heung-min with the goal. Lovely counter-attacking play by Tottenham, catching Arsenal cold. James Maddison again, the instigator. He's picked the ball up and he's timed his pass to Heung-min. It's run just through the middle and he's just slotted into the corner of the goal past David Raya. And I tell you what, he's got a really good record in these debuts in recent times. Now, it's his 7th goal in his last 11 appearances. So brilliant stuff for Spurs. They're back on level to him straight away. Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2.
It's turning into an absolute classic then at the Emirates. 2 apiece between Arsenal and Tottenham. As I mentioned a few moments ago, red card has been shown in the match between Chelsea and Aston Villa at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea have been reduced to 10 men in that game. Jack Hesson.
Yeah, and he started this second half off really well, but this will give Aston Villa just a new lease of life. And when you take a look at it, you really can't argue with what the VAR has seen there and intervened on. It's Lucas Digne again, another challenge on him. He's getting it all this afternoon. Gusto comes in really quickly and really recklessly on him. He doesn't win the ball. The referee initially gives a yellow card, and then upon the VAR looking at it, it does appear that his right foot does sort of go on to Lucas Digne's ankle. It looks really bad upon the replay, and I think they've made the right call there to change that yellow card to a red card, and Chelsea now have it all to do. Aston Villa, new lease of life, 60 minutes played. It's still, however, Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0.
Yeah, Chelsea really up against it now. Down to 10 men, still level at the moment, goalless with Aston Villa. Of course, they did lose at home to Villa last season with a couple of goals from Ollie Watkins and John McGinn securing the points for the Villains on that particular occasion. Villa with a really good record in London as well. They're unbeaten in all 4 of their Premier League matches in the capital under Unai Emery. They've won 2 and drawn 2. And at the moment, with that man advantage, they're still level 0-0 at Stamford Bridge. You're listening to Football Live here on Brila FM. Let's head back now to the Emirates Stadium. I think the referee has dipped into his pocket and issued a yellow card in that game. Richard Bond.
Yeah, and unsurprisingly, really, Kai Havertz has gone straight through Heung-min Son, straight in the book. It was a bit of a late challenge, to say the least. But these cards are mounting up now. That's three to Tottenham, 2 to Arsenal. So we've had Sarr and Bissouma for Tottenham in the first half, and we've got Odegaard and Havertz now for Arsenal. So the challenges are meaty at times, to say the least, and it's going to be one of these games where, I hate to say, but you can possibly see a red card coming at some point. But let's hope that doesn't spoil the game, because this is really entertaining stuff. Plenty of chances, plenty of entertainment. Yeah, not really like a derby match, really. But, you know, at the moment, though, with just under an hour gone, it's Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2.
This is Football Live on Brila FM. 19 minutes past 3 on this Sunday afternoon. Chris Baldwin here with you right the way through until 6:30 this evening. Don't forget, of course, the 4:30 kickoff at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United against Newcastle. We'll be building up with team news and previews ahead of that game a little bit later on here on Football Live. So let's just recap the latest scores that we have for you in the Premier League. Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2, Brighton 2, Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0. Chelsea down to 10 men in that game, and it remains Liverpool 1, West Ham 1 at Anfield. Betting news next from John Kane.
The latest in-play betting odds from NairaBet.
Yes, the latest bets and odds from NairaBet. Of course, all these prices are subject to change, and from the NairaBet website. Let's start with the North London derby, Arsenal Spurs. 60 minutes gone. It's Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2. Arsenal have just gone up to 2.15. The draw has gone to 2.60, and Tottenham win, it's just gone down to 5.25. Liverpool Arsenal 1-0 still between them. Liverpool are just gone up to 1.70. The draw has gone down to 3.0, and away win for West Ham has gone to 8.0. As for Brighton are leading Bournemouth by 2-1. Bournemouth have just gone down to 1.20, understandably very low price. While they're leading, in fact, Bournemouth. The draw has gone down to 6.0, and it's gone up for Bournemouth to 23.0. As for Chelsea Villa, Chelsea are playing with 10 men at the moment, and you can not be surprised if the price has gone up a bit. They are 4.75 to win at home, 2.20 for the draw, and an away win for Villa has just gone down to 2.70. As for Spurs, Arsenal Spurs, just give you a few selection odds from here. The next player to score, James Maddison. If you think James Maddison will score, is 13.0. If you think Martin Odegaard will score next, is 9.50. And Eddie Nketiah, if you think he'll score, is 8.0. Heung-min Son just gone down. He's already on a hat-trick at the moment. It's gone down to 11.0. Of course, all these prices from NairaBet, and they're all subject to change.
Thanks very much to John Kane with the latest betting news there. And we have more goal news to tell you about from Anfield.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Well, you'll remember just before half-time, Liverpool had a goal chalked off following a VAR decision. Curtis Jones had his goal disallowed. That was deep into stoppage time at the end of the first half. I can tell you, though, that Liverpool have restored their lead at home to West Ham, although I'm hearing now that that is also subject to a VAR check. So we will update you with the latest on that very, very shortly. It's gone to a VAR decision. Darwin Núñez has scored for Liverpool, but it is subject to a VAR check. We'll be getting details of that from our reporter Molly Sumter very, very shortly here on Football Live here on Brila FM. Just a reminder that Ayo Alabi from NairaBet will be joining us in a little over an hour or so with all of the betting opportunities ahead of Sheffield United's clash with Newcastle at Bramall Lane. So that's all coming up with Ayo Alabi in about just over an hour's time or so. That VAR decision is still ongoing at the moment at Anfield. We'll bring you news just as soon as we possibly can. Tell you what, let's head straight away to Anfield now, because I can confirm that the goal has been given. Liverpool are back in front. Here's Molly Sumter.
Oh, it was a fabulous, fabulous goal from Liverpool. A brilliant ball over the top to Darwin Núñez, who's got it on the volley and chipped it just past Areola. It's a fantastic finish from him, and it's what Liverpool deserve. They've definitely been on top at back end of last half and the beginning stages of this second half. Played really well. West Ham not offering enough in attack to challenge Liverpool, but Liverpool definitely going in with all of the chances. It was very close to being offside, but the run is perfectly timed from Núñez. And of course, the goal has stood. Liverpool back in front at Anfield. It's 60 minutes gone. Liverpool 2, West Ham 1.
Darwin Núñez then on the score sheet with his third goal of the Premier League campaign to put Liverpool back in front there. Let's head back now to the Emirates Stadium. Arsenal against Tottenham, a match that is beautifully poised, but some injury news in that game. Richard Bond.
Yeah, we got some injury news for you. It's Brennan Johnson who's gone off injured. I think his hamstring's gone, really. As such, he was down off the ball, just sprinting away, and he's holding it, and he was on the floor. The physio came on, trying to stretch him out a bit. I thought it might have been cramp at first, but he's walked off, so it can't be a really long-term one. But he did a similar sort of thing, I remember, at the end of last season as well, when he was playing for Forest. So it could be a case of that. But Manu Solomon's come on for him now. We've got 25 minutes to go on the clock here, and I can still see more goals in this one. It's so entertaining. It's back and forth, both sides just trying to counter-attack each other. Someone's got to win this, surely. It's 2-2 though with 25 minutes to go.
Still plenty of football to be played then at the Emirates. Let's head back to Stamford Bridge. Chelsea against Aston Villa, and Jack Hesson, Villa looking to press home the advantage of having that one extra man.
Yeah, they're certainly the team in the ascendancy at the moment, but they need to start converting that possession and that dominance that they have over Chelsea with the 11 men into chances. It was a great opportunity there. Nicolas Zaniolo just on the edge of the area. Lucas Digne is just in front of him in the box and miles of space. No Chelsea man picking him up. He's just got to try and find the ball to Digne. He opts to try and go for the shot instead, and it goes wayward. Chelsea trying to change things tactically to get back into the game really, and to shore things up after that red card. They have taken off Mudryk. Chilwell comes on and Enzo Fernandez is off, and Ugochukwu is coming on as well. So Chelsea really, I don't know what the game plan would be for them now. Try and set off Aston Villa and hit them on the counter attack. It's really the only way they're going to get something out of this game now. 66 minutes played, it's still Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0.
Well, it's been a pulsating afternoon of action, as you would expect this Sunday afternoon in the Premier League. Let's head back to the Amex now. Are Brighton still edging it at home to Bournemouth? Ash Sandiford.
Yeah, currently still Brighton 2, Bournemouth 1. And like you said, Brighton are still edging it, to be honest with you. They've really put the foot on the throttle at the moment. A couple of chances for Matoba, cutting in from the left-hand side into the right-hand side and kind of bending it round the post a couple of times. 2 occasions now. He's had 3 shots already and scored 1 of his goals so far this afternoon. So he's doing really well. Also, a couple of our substitutions. Evan Ferguson's come off. Ansu Fati has come on. And also, Danny Welbeck's made way, the ex-Manchester United centre-forwards. And João Pedro has now come onto the field. So Brighton will be looking to secure this, hopefully this win, with 1 more goal that should put Bournemouth to bed. But currently, as it stands, it's still Brighton 2, Bournemouth 1.
Tottenham have fashioned an opportunity at the Emirates. Arsenal against Tottenham. Here's Richard Bond.
Yeah, Tottenham can really come into this game now into the last period of the match. And it's Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2, but it's James Maddison who had the chance. Lovely ball played over the top from Van der Ven from the back as Tottenham tried to break quickly against Arsenal. Very much similar to what they did to get the second goal. Maddison, guys, some sight really seeing him sprinting down throughout the goal. He's got his head down, he's cut inside and he's lashed a shot. It's a bit high this time, gone over the bar, but that's a sign of intent that Tottenham are in this to win it. It's at the moment though, Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2.
So still all level then at the Emirates Stadium. Let's just recap the Premier League scores for you once again, as you just heard. 2 apiece then at the Emirates. Brighton 2, Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 0. It remains at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea down to 10 men following the sending off of Malo Gusto. And it's Liverpool 2, West Ham 1 at Anfield. Our featured match in the Dutch Eredivisie today was taking place at the Johan Cruyff Arena. Ajax against Feyenoord. Feyenoord took a 3-0 lead into the break. The match was interrupted in the first half. It was then interrupted again in the second half. And Michael Jeffries, the match has been abandoned.
I know. It is such a shame, Chris, because Feyenoord have played so well. We saw some incredible play from Santiago Jimenez and some patches of flair from Paxal, Stengs, Vinte and Timber, and even a few good moments from Brian Bobby from Ajax. And it's just disrupted what was a really, really exciting game to us. Some great football, some real quality. And yeah, it's just a shame that these 2 interruptions, these 2 patches of fireworks and flares landing on the pitch have stopped what was a really entertaining game of football. And you can see all the disappointed fans walking away. It wasn't the best day for Ajax, but I think this is even worse than perhaps just losing a 90-minute game. This is a loss and also quite a sad day for them, I think, as well. So yeah, it's just a real shame, Chris.
Thanks very much, Michael Jeffries, who sounds very, very disappointed there, and I don't blame him. No doubt there will be some repercussions from the Dutch footballing authorities following events at the Johan Cruyff Arena this afternoon. But just confirmation, Ajax against Feyenoord. It was 3-0 to the defending champions in that game, but it has been abandoned. You're listening to Football Live here on Brila FM. Let's just quickly head back to the Emirates Stadium. There's been another yellow card in that game. Richard Bond.
Yeah, not just another yellow card, but it's also been an injury, and it's an injury to James Maddison. This is concerning stuff for Spurs. He went into a challenge trying to win the ball back. I think it was on Havertz, and he's just caught his foot in the ground, and he's wincing in pain on the floor at the moment. Ange Postecoglou is not looking too happy on the sidelines. We've had a bit of a timeout. The physio's on now. He's just trying to stretch his leg out a bit, but it is a bit worrying. In the meantime, Arsenal had a yellow card, and it's a really poor one, really. Eddie Nketiah has not really been in this game very much. The ball was played back from one of the defenders back to the Tottenham keeper, Vicario, and Nketiah has just gone in and lunged into the keeper, really. It was a silly foul, just a really easy yellow card, and you don't need to be doing that. It's pure frustration from Arsenal because they haven't really had much of the ball in the last 10 minutes or so. But concerns at the moment though for Maddison, and I'll let you know how that gets on in the next few minutes. But at the moment, 20 minutes to go, Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2.
The deadlock has finally been broken at Stamford Bridge.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And Aston Villa have taken advantage of having that extra man. Ollie Watkins has scored his very first goal of the season to make it Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 1. Details of that from Jack Hesson coming up very, very shortly here on Football Live. But Aston Villa now ahead in that game, courtesy of Ollie Watkins. Just a reminder that in about just over 20 minutes' time, once again, we will be back with Tony and the crew in Nigeria for all of your social media comments. So many talking points this afternoon in the Premier League. Let's just run through some other latest scores for you before we go into an ad break. In the Championship earlier on today, ended Stoke 1, Hull 3, and a current match currently in progress at the Stadium of Light. It's Sunderland 0, Cardiff 0. In the Scottish Premiership, some latest scores to give you there. 2 matches taking place. Aberdeen 0, Ross County 0, Rangers 0, Motherwell 0. Rangers having a poor season by their standards. In the German Bundesliga, updates for you at half-time. It's Leverkusen 1, Heidenheim 0. I'm reminded that our featured match takes place at 4:30. Frankfurt against Freiburg. We'll be across that game for you this afternoon with our reporter Cam Wilson. In the Dutch Eredivisie, as we know, Ajax against Feyenoord was abandoned. The result from earlier on today, Sparta Rotterdam 1, Vitesse 0. In Spanish La Liga, a result to give you from that game, Real Sociedad 4, Getafe 3. Cracking game that. And it's currently Rayo Vallecano 1, Villarreal 1, with coming up to 20 minutes of the game played there. A couple of halftime scores to give you. Latest scores to give you in Italian Serie A. Atalanta still leading Cagliari by 1-0. Ademola Lookman with the goal there for Atalanta. And it remains Udinese 0, Fiorentina 1. And finally, in the French League 1, a result from earlier on today, Metz 0, Strasbourg 1. And a couple of latest scores for you. Le Havre 2, Clermont 1, Lens 1, Toulouse 1. And finally, in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, a latest score, Cercle Brugge 0, Royal Union 1. They've just taken the lead in that game. Right, let's get details of that goal for Aston Villa at Stamford Bridge as we head back to Jack Hesson.
Yeah, it's a goal. It's no more than Aston Villa deserve. And what a goal from Ollie Watkins. Thiago Silva initially gives the ball away to Moussa Diaby. Diaby then advancing towards the box, finds a pass to Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins then advancing towards the goal. Colwell is there to square up to him. Colwell then blocks the initial shot from Ollie Watkins, but it then lands at such a tight angle for Ollie Watkins to go for the second shot that nobody perhaps expects him to go for the shot, but he does anyway, and it goes right in past Sanchez and goes almost an absolute impossible angle from Watkins. An excellent goal, and as I said, no more than Aston Villa deserve. 77 minutes played here. It's Chelsea 0, 10-men Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 1.
Aston Villa looking for their second Premier League win on their travels this season. This is Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live.
Sports Radio 88.9 Brila FM.
Take Brila anywhere, everywhere.
Yes, you can take Brila with you anywhere, everywhere.
The Brila app is available for free download on Google Play. It is also there on the Apple iTunes Store. Yes, on Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store.
Look out for the Brila football and microphone logo with the letters BRILA in green colour.
That is our authentic app. It gives you Brila FM, Brila.net, BrilaSports.tv and all the extra betting tips, live score, plus our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google Plus and YouTube posts.
Sports fun. You can post your videos and eyewitness reports.
Brila, BRILA. Available for download on Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store.
You are listening to Football Live. Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
The Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brila FM with Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM 88.9 and 101.1 FM.
If you're betting on sports this week, why not make your money go further? Sign up to NairaBet for 11 days of risk-free betting. If your bet loses, you will get your stake back as a free bet up to 2,000 Naira. All you need to do is register a new account with NairaBet today and qualify to get up to 22,000 Naira in free bets. Visit www.nairabet.com/bonus for more information. General and free bet terms apply. Must be over 18. Must be KYC approved. Must place a qualifying bet. Bet must include football, tennis or basketball markets. Please gamble responsibly.
You are listening to Football Live. Football Live.
Eyewitness report across the big match action.
The Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga, French Ligue 1.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brila FM with Football Live.
The most listened to live matchday show on the planet.
Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
Coming up next Saturday on Football Live with Josh Bailey. Manchester United taking on Crystal Palace. Liverpool go to Tottenham Hotspur. Live and exclusive on Brila FM. Let's get back to the action on Football Live. Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
And the ball has hit the back of the net once again at the Amex. Brighton against Bournemouth. Which way has the goal gone? Let's rejoin.
The goal, powered by NairaBet.
Yeah, it's gone to the home side, Brighton. It's Brighton 3, Bournemouth 1, and I think it's game, set and match. I know it's a little bit early to say that, but I really do believe Brighton have completely dominated this second half in possession, in terms of effort and attitude. And it's great play again from the midfield players, again by Billy Gilmore, breaking down the play, and he's held it to the left-hand side for Estepinian. Estepinian's crossed in a beautiful ball with his left foot, and it's Matoma again, his second goal of the game after only coming on at half-time. Would usually say super sub, but he's usually starting most of the games for Brighton. But as it stands, it's Brighton 3, Bournemouth 1, 78 minutes gone.
Well, you never know, but surely Brighton are out of sight now with that 2-goal cushion. What an incredible start to the season they have had. It will be their 5th win from their opening 6 matches if they can claim all 3 points this afternoon. And of course, we'll put the disappointment of that defeat to AEK Athens in the Europa League behind them as well. So Brighton 3, Bournemouth 1, the latest score there from the Amex. As we head back to the Emirates, let's get an update now. Arsenal against Tottenham. Richard Bond.
A few interesting substitutions coming on here now. Both Arsenal and Tottenham have made some. And Royce Nelson, remember from last year, he scored an interesting late goal. I think it was against Nottingham Forest. He loves a big game at the Emirates. He's come on for Gabriel Jesus. I found that quite surprising. I thought perhaps it might have been Eddie Nketiah, but it's Jesus who's gone off. But for Spurs, Maddison, I'm not sure if he fully recovered from that knock he had. He's been replaced by Richarlison, and Højbjerg has replaced Heung-min Son. So interesting stuff for Spurs. Whether they are perhaps looking maybe to settle for a point now. I'm not sure. There's 12 minutes to go in this one. Plenty of action remaining. But Romero has gone to be Spurs captain, taking the armband off Son. Minutes after just getting yet another booking. 17 yellow cards in 56 appearances for the club. Interesting stuff. Arsenal, though, level on the day at the moment with Tottenham. It's 2 apiece.
So still finally balanced then in the North London derby as we head back to Anfield. Liverpool against West Ham. Liverpool still leading by the odd goal in 3 that game. Molly Sumpter.
Yeah, Liverpool definitely still on the front foot. It's looking like there's a lot of tired legs out there for West Ham and looking almost a little bit defeated as well. We've just had a double change from the Hammers. Souček has made way for Pablo Fornals and Antonio has made way for Mohamed Kudus, who got his first goal in a Hammers shirt during that win in the Europa League on Thursday. So we'll see if he can provide anything here. But it is looking like Liverpool might take this one. They have a fantastic record against the Hammers. I believe they are the team in the Premier League that Liverpool have won the most games against. So the odds would be in their favour. And the way that they're playing at the moment as well, Chris, West Ham can't seem to get anything from them in terms of an attack. Liverpool all over them and playing with confidence and style. I think you've got to put it Liverpool's way. 77 minutes on the clock. It's Liverpool 2, West Ham 1.
Yeah, West Ham certainly never historically get much change out of Liverpool. Anyway, Jurgen Klopp's side did the double over them last season. And West Ham have only beaten their opponents just once in their last 16 Premier League meetings as well. Their last win at Anfield way back in August 2015 when they won 3-0 on that occasion. And at the moment, they're heading to defeat this afternoon. But any further developments on that match, you will hear them first and foremost here on Football Live on Brila FM as we head back to Stamford Bridge. Let's get an update on Chelsea against Aston Villa. They've been reduced to 10 men. They're trailing. Any signs that they might get something out of this game, Jack Hesson?
Well, they did have a good chance just a couple of minutes ago. The ball fell to Chilwell on the left-hand side. He was darting towards the box. He managed to get himself one-on-one with Martinez, but Martinez again forced into a great save. He's been brilliant this afternoon. Just as you came to me there, Aston Villa very close to making it 2. Jacob Ramsey, recent substitute at the edge of the area, takes a curling shot and forces Sanchez and goals for Chelsea into a great save. So Chelsea trying to throw everything now to get something out of this game. Before this game, Aston Villa are a great team, but before this game, this was really a must-win for Chelsea, and now it's turned into a must-not-lose. Disappointing if you're a Chelsea supporter, but Aston Villa, no more than what they deserve from how they played this afternoon. 85 minutes played, it's 10-man Chelsea now, Aston Villa 1.
So Villa still in front, courtesy of that goal from Ollie Watkins. His first of the season, of course, having failed to net for Villa this season. In fact, he's only scored once in his last 12 Premier League appearances. That's carried over from last season. That actually directly followed a run of 11 goals in 12, you may remember, last season when he was absolutely on fire. This may be the catalyst for the start of his season. Who knows, for Aston Villa. It's currently Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 1. Villa heading towards all 3 points at the moment. There was, of course, plenty of action in the Premier League. Yesterday, we've reviewed some of the action that took place at Kenilworth Road. Luton secured their very first ever Premier League point with a 1-1 draw at home to Wolves, even though they played the best part of over 50 minutes of the match or so against 10 men after Wanderers' Jean-Rigner Bellegarde was shown a straight red card. Pedro Neto had given the visitors the lead early in the second half, but a highly dubious penalty awarded to the Hatters saw Carlton Morris convert from the spot. Here is the Hatters boss, Rob Edwards, on Luton's first point.
Yeah, I thought we dominated the game, played really well. Everything that we asked of the lads, they did. Got the crowd engaged by being on the front foot. The atmosphere was brilliant. I thought that first 25 minutes was probably as good as we've ever played since we've been at the club. Sending off then just before half-time, slightly changed things for them, gives them a little bit more fight. Disappointed with how we conceded the goal. But in saying that, Neto I think is very, very good. We'd highlighted him clearly before the game, and he's someone that can change a game in an instant. He did that. He's a really, really top international footballer. But credit to the lads, they kept going, they kept pushing and driving and trying to do the right things and found a way to get something from the game.
And it's a result that lifted Luton off the foot of the table by virtue of their slightly better goal difference over Burnley. Elsewhere yesterday, Crystal Palace and Fulham fought out an unmemorable goalless draw at Selhurst Park. And the less said about that match, the better. That completes our review of all the action that took place in the Premier League yesterday. We'll be reviewing some of the action that's taken place during the course of the weekend in the other top European leagues. But let's head back to Anfield now, because I believe that there have been some changes made from the substitution point of view. Liverpool against West Ham. Here's Molly Sumpter.
Yeah, Klopp decided to make a good few changes here. I think just bringing on some fresh legs, people who can run. It's more of an the attacking changes here. Curtis Jones made way for Ryan Gravenberch, that sign-in from Bayern Munich, who had Klopp singing his praises after his performance the other night in the Europa League. Darwin Núñez has made way for Cody Gakpo, and Jota has come on for Luis Diaz. So a few attacking changes there for Liverpool, potentially just giving them enough of a boost in energy to maybe put this game to bed with one more goal, which we know with the attacking forces and devices they have is definitely something Liverpool can do. Plenty of people who can get a goal now for the Reds. It's still Liverpool 2, West Ham 1, 82 minutes gone.
Let's head back to the Emirates Stadium with just under 3 minutes or so remaining in that game. And I believe the Gunners have come pretty close to taking the lead once again there. Richard Bond.
Oh, yeah, very, very close. It was an in-swinging corner from Bukayo Saka. Lovely ball into the box. The ball came on and you could see Gabriel coming for it. And Mike Van der Ven has just got just above him, just to get a flick on ahead, just to push it wide for an extra corner. But Gabriel there, if he was ready to pounce, and I'm telling you, if he connected, that would have been in the back of the net. But, you know, Arsenal go in for it at the moment. Maybe Spurs are looking to settle now, I think. But Arsenal still looking to push for this winner. And incidentally, if they do, they will keep up a record where they are 38 Premier League games unbeaten when scoring first. But at the moment, with 5 minutes to go, it's Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2.
So let's just recap the latest scores for you once again. In fact, before we do, further goal news to tell you about from Anfield.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And Liverpool now have a 2-goal cushion. It's Liverpool 3, West Ham 1. They're closing in on victory. Confirmation of the goal scorer in just a moment. So a quick recap of the other latest scores for you. Arsenal 2, Richard 2, as you just heard there from Richard Bond. Brighton 3, Bournemouth 1. Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 1. Chelsea down to 10 men. And it is now Liverpool 3, West Ham 1. Diogo Jota has scored the third goal for Liverpool. We'll get news of that very shortly from Molly Sumpter. But a reminder, of course, we have a 4:30 kickoff in the Premier League. So we're just over 40 minutes away from kickoff at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United against Newcastle. Let's build up to that encounter this afternoon. And with some team news, here's Duka Duma.
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, just a couple of changes for both sides. Sheffield United making the 2 changes. John Egan, who's come back from injury, he comes in for Chris Basham. And Ollie McBurney, who's suspended, which sees Oliver Norwood come in. And it seems as if McAtee will move up to a striker position to support Cameron Archer. Newcastle making just the 1 change today, and that sees Miguel Almiron coming in for Anthony Gordon. Just under 45 minutes till kickoff here at Bramall Lane.
Thanks very much, Duka. So that's Sheffield United taking on Newcastle. We will be across that game for you throughout the full 90 minutes here on Football Live. Let's get news of that third Liverpool goal at Anfield. Molly Sumpter.
It's a corner that's been whipped in for Liverpool, and then pinball in the box from, I believe it's Van Dijk, and then on to Jota, who has just come on, and he's managed to get a toe to it to put it past the West Ham keeper. We said that this might have been what Liverpool needed, just a cushion, as you said, Chris, that win today. They've got about 5 minutes left to go, so I don't think West Ham would be able to bring anything else to this game. Given the way the second half has gone, Liverpool definitely deserving to be in front, and a brilliantly taken corner from Andy Robertson as well. Really well whipped into the box. As I said, got 86 minutes on the clock. It's now Liverpool 3, West Ham 1.
And we'll be back around the Premier League grounds very, very shortly. Let's just recap some latest scores for you from the UK and around Europe at half-time in the Championship. Sunderland 0, Cardiff 0 in the Scottish Premiership, approaching half-time in both of these games. Aberdeen 2, Ross County 0, and Rangers are 1-0 up at home to Motherwell. In the German Bundesliga, Leverkusen have gone ahead against Heidenheim. They now lead by 2-1. A reminder that our featured match kicking off at 4:30 sees Frankfurt taking on Freiburg. We'll be across that game for you here on Football Live on Brila FM. In the Dutch Eredivisie, a couple of latest scores for you. A couple of games that have just kicked off. Valwijk 0, Twente 0, and Zwolle 0, Alkmaar 0. The latest score there in the early stages. In Spanish La Liga, it's 1-0 between Rayo Vallecano and Villarreal with about 10 minutes or so of the first half remaining. In Italian Serie A, and Atalanta have extended their lead at home to Cagliari into the 90th minute there. It's Atalanta 2, Cagliari 0, and it's Udinese 0, Fiorentina 1 with a couple of minutes of normal time remaining there. And in French Ligue 1 we go. Approaching full time, it's Le Havre 2, Clermont 1, Lens 2, Toulouse 1. And finally, in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League at half-time, it's Cercle Brugge 0, Royal Union 1. So you're up to date with all of the latest scores from around Europe here on Football Live on Brila FM. Let's go around the Premier League grounds once again as we close in on all the full times. First port of call will of course be to North London, to the Emirates. Arsenal against Tottenham. Richard Bond.
Well, this is turning into it's not just a battle, it's a war going on here at the moment. Saka is the latest player to go down, clutching his knee after a tussle with Ndogi, and 10-minute stoppage time we got here. I'm not surprised at all. Arsenal looking the more likely. They're pushing forward at every opportunity, but Saka's just trying to run off this knee injury at the moment now, so he looks okay. He looks to be jogging around okay at the minute, but he's Odegaard now, who just brought a really nice corner in the box, and I think that is testing Tottenham, but they're defending resolutely in the last few minutes. It's a different Tottenham this season. This kind of side last year under Antonio Conte would have caved with some of the pressure that Arsenal have been putting on them. But, you know, you've got to give credit to them. They're holding Arsenal out at the minute. But like I say, 10 minutes of stoppage time. But it's Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2. We're about 2 minutes into that period now.
There's still plenty of time for either side to craft out a winner in that game. Let's head back to Stamford Bridge now for an update on Chelsea against Aston Villa. Jack Hesson.
Yeah, we're 5 minutes into 11 minutes added time there, and Chelsea had a really good opportunity to try and equalise. The ball fell to Disasi on the right-hand side. He beats Dinya and advances towards the box, has lots of space, cuts the ball inside to Palmer, the substitute. He takes a nice first-time finish on it. It looks goal-bound. It looks going away from Emiliano Martinez and goals. But Ezri Konsa for Aston Villa just sticks a foot out at the def to prevent it from going into the goal. Apart from that, though, it really feels like it's going to take either an Aston Villa collapse here or a bit of magic from Chelsea to get themselves back into the game. 96 minutes on the clock, 11 minutes added time. It's 10-man Chelsea now, Aston Villa 1.
Looks as though Liverpool will be extending their unbeaten run in the Premier League. Let's get an update from Anfield. Liverpool against West Ham. Molly Sumpter.
There's been a couple more changes to tell you about, one from Liverpool and one from West Ham. McAllister has come off and made way for the new signing from Stuttgart, Wataru Endo for Liverpool, another attacking force just to settle the game and see these last few moments out. I believe there's 5 minutes of added time that these players will have on the pitch. Paquetá has also made way for Danny Ings, so we'll see what they can bring to the table. But as you said, Chris, it's not looking good for West Ham, and an unfortunate run of games for them, really, with City last week, Liverpool this week. It was going to be rough to try and get some points there, but it looks as though it might be the same result as last week for them. It's Liverpool 3, West Ham 1.
Arsenal have come close to getting a winner at the Emirates. Richard Bond.
Yeah, Arsenal really knocking the door now, and they've had a good pretty good opportunity just a minute ago. Odegaard's corner was half cleared out to the edge of the box. There's Bukayo Saka. He's put on his left foot. He's tried to bend one into the bottom left-hand corner, but what a good signing this Vicario looks for Tottenham. He's got down low and pushed the ball just wide of the post. Priceless stuff there for Tottenham. And there's 6 minutes to go here. Arsenal on top, pushing for that winner. Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2.
Bournemouth are still in search of their first Premier League win this season, and it's not going to come this afternoon, is it? Ash Sandiford.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to come this afternoon. It's Brighton 3, Bournemouth 1, and it's, to be honest with you, Brighton are just really controlling the game at the moment, to be honest with you. They're really keeping the ball quite well, and since João Pedro has come on, he's looking really, really dangerous. He's linking up really well with Mitoma on the left-hand side, keeping the ball really well, and at the moment, Brighton are just seeing out the game. It looks like it's going to be 3 out of 3 wins for Brighton against Bournemouth over the last couple of seasons as they won their games back-to-back last season. It's still Brighton 3, Bournemouth 1, about 2 or 3 minutes of injury time left.
Yeah, João Pedro, a great signing for the Seagulls this season. Of course, scored twice from the penalty spot in that 3-2 defeat, didn't he, at home to AEK Athens in the Europa League earlier in mid-week. So let's just quickly recap the latest scores for you in the Premier League. Plenty of time added on at the end of each of these games. It remains Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2, Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 1, Liverpool 3, West Ham 1. We will be crossing over to Tony and the crew in Nigeria just as soon as we've wrapped up all of the events at the Emirates. When we get the final whistle there, we will be heading over to Tony in Nigeria for all of your social media comments. As I say, just a reminder, in about half an hour's time or so, we'll be linking up with Ayo Alabi from NairaBet as we look ahead to the betting opportunities for the 4:30 Premier League kickoff between Sheffield United and Newcastle. And we've had all the team news already as we've built up to that game with our reporter Duka Domba, who's covering that game for us from Bramall Lane this afternoon. A reminder that our featured match in the German Bundesliga takes place at the Deutsche Bank Park, where Frankfurt entertain Freiburg. That also gets underway at 4:30. And elsewhere in Italian Serie A, Bologna are at home to Napoli. Victor Osimhen in action there this afternoon. We'll be across that game for you as well, which kicks off at 5 p.m. The full-time whistle has blown at the Amex Stadium. Let's get a final report on that game from Ash Sandiford.
Yeah, final report here between Brighton versus Bournemouth. It's Brighton 3, Bournemouth 1, and in the end, convincing winners for Brighton and Hove Albion. A great performance in the end, especially in that second half when Mitoma came on. The game started off quite fast-paced, and Bournemouth in the end got themselves a well-deserved goal with great pressure from the front of the goal, getting towards the goalkeeper, closing him down with the goalkeeper Bart Bergerberger making a huge mistake and an error for Dominic Solanke to just chip it over him into an empty net. Just before half-time, an own goal from Milos Kerkez got himself a really bad own goal. Should have just tried to header it out. He ended up skimming it at the top of his head. It's gone in. It's 1-1 before half-time. That gave Brighton all the ascendancy in that second half, with Brighton going straight after 36 seconds. Mitoma getting himself just near enough a tap-in, just a toe poke into the bottom right-hand corner of the net, and a great cross from Estepinian after about, I think it was about 72 minutes. A great cross with his left foot straight into Mitoma, flicking, glancing header into the top right-hand corner to end the game for Bournemouth. Dominant performance in that second half from Brighton, as I said, and the Seagulls were going to be really happy with those 3 points, winning 5 out of their first 6 Premier League games. Brighton home 3, Bournemouth 1.
And many thanks to our reporter Ash Sandiford covering that game for us this afternoon. Let's head straight back to the Emirates Stadium. Some concerning injury news there for Arsenal supporters. Richard Bond.
Yeah, well, very concerning because Bukayo Saka hasn't been able to continue. He's limped off. I'm presuming from that knee injury he suffered minutes ago. He's been replaced by Emile Smith-Rowe. This London derby's been absolutely ferocious stuff, and the amount of injuries we had from it is been spectacular at best. But for Arsenal though, it's very concerning with the amount of games they've got coming up. Remember, we've got a big game against Manchester City coming up in the next couple of weeks now. So, they'll be hoping the likes of Saka, Rice, and obviously people like Trossard, who didn't feature today, and Martinelli will be fit for that clash. So it's slightly concerning there, but they are still pushing for a winner here. But I think Tottenham will be happy for a point, but we've still got a couple of minutes to play here. It's still Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2.
Final whistle has blown at Anfield. Liverpool against West Ham. Molly Sumpter.
Yeah, it's all done and dusted here at Anfield. Liverpool 3, West Ham 1. In the end, really a comfortable win for Liverpool. In the final kind of half an hour of the game, it looked as if West Ham almost gave up a little bit. They got that goal back by Jared Bowen to get them back level. But I don't think it was quite enough to weather the storm of Liverpool, who, as we said, have just got such a strong attacking force within their side that it would have been an incredibly difficult task to beat them today. In the end, West Ham really being played around, the players at the end of the game looking really defeated. Liverpool happy to continue this incredibly good streak that they're on in the Premier League at the moment. I think I saw a stat going into this game. They were 5 points better off than they were at this stage last season, and that run is only continuing for them. So Klopp is doing a brilliant job with his side. New signings definitely making an impact for them as well, with goals from Jota in there as well. I think it's a brilliant statement to how Liverpool are playing at the moment, and definitely one that they will seek to keep going with this brilliant form. It's full time here at Anfield. Liverpool 3, West Ham 1.
And thanks to our reporter Molly Sumter there, I can tell you that the full-time whistle has blown at the Emirates Stadium, and it is a share of the spoils for Arsenal and Tottenham. It's ended 2 apiece there in that game. It's also all over at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea versus Aston Villa, where Villa have taken home the points there this afternoon. We will be getting full-time reports on both of those matches a little bit later on here on Football Live. But right now, slightly later than usual, let's head over to Tony and the team for all of your social media comments. We'll be back very shortly here on Football Live.
Let's get back to the action on Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
Yes, indeed, and welcome back to Football Live on this Sunday afternoon. What an afternoon it's been for Premier League action as well. Just a reminder, we're about 8 minutes away from kickoff, of course. Sheffield United against Newcastle. We'll be focusing on that game very, very shortly. We'll be being joined by Ayo Alabi from NairaBet as we look ahead to the betting opportunities for that game as well. But of course, it all happened and all unfurled at the Emirates Stadium earlier on this afternoon in that big North London derby. It finished 2 apiece. And what a cracking game it was, Richard Bond.
Oh, yeah, it was an absolute brilliant game. It finished Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2 at the Emirates in a fiery contest which saw no less than 7 bookings, several injuries and 4 goals. Saw a comprehensive and entertaining game of football between two sides who probably looked like they'll be there and thereabouts come the end of the season. Bukayo Saka scored a deflected effort midway through the first half to give the home side the lead, for Heung-min Son's excellent first finish level just for the visitors just before the break. Second half brought more frantic action. Both goalkeepers made excellent saves, Vicario denying Jesus and Saka, whilst Raya miraculously kept up Brennan Johnson's close-range effort when the ball seemingly looked to be going in. It would be Arsenal, though, who would retake the lead through Bukayo Saka's penalty after Christian Romero's handball, giving the opportunity from the spot. Tottenham, though, would strike straight back as the excellent James Maddison, who was man of the match incidentally, would play in Son to convert calmly into the back of the net for his second of the match just 23 seconds later. The scores would stay the same from there, but both sides would look to win the match, but in the end it did finish 2-2, but both sides lost several key players in the final stages, which will be concerned going in. Tottenham have Liverpool next week and Arsenal have Manchester City in a fortnight's time. So Maddison and Brennan Johnson both off for Spurs, whilst Arsenal lost Vieira, Rice and Saka late on. So entertaining match though, nevertheless. It finished here, Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2 at the Emirates Stadium.
And many thanks to our reporter there, Richard Bond, for covering the North London derby this afternoon as it ended honours even. Meanwhile, at Stamford Bridge, the problems mount for Chelsea and especially Maurizio Pochettino. Their woes continue. Jack Hesson.
The woes certainly continue, and I think the worst thing you can say for Chelsea is that from the get-go, this just felt like, even before the game, that this was coming. It's not a shock that Villa have came here once again, as they did last season, and left with all 3 points. They did start the game relatively well, Chelsea. There was a one-on-one chance from Nicholas Jackson, forced Martinez into a great save, and then on 44 minutes they did have the ball in the net with Axel Disasi heading it in from a Sterling cross, but it was deemed to be offside. Going into the second half, they did start positively. They had another great opportunity, Sterling in towards goal. Again, great save by Martinez, but then around 50 minutes, Gusto goes in for a challenge on Luca Digne, initially given as a booking, but upon the VAR check, it appears that he had stepped on his ankle. It was a reckless challenge and he was rightly sent off, and after that the game then switched on his axis. Aston Villa had all the possession from then. 73 minutes in, Thiago Silva gives the ball away. The ball falls to Diaby, then Diaby plays in Ollie Watkins. Levy Colwill is there to follow him. The initial shot deflects off Colwill and then falls back to Watkins, and from a tight angle he manages to get the ball in the back of the net to give Villa a goal lead. From there, a decent chance from Chilwell, but that was really the only opportunity Chelsea had after the goal, and that was that. So as for Chelsea, they're 14th in the table. They're 4 points from the bottom of the table. The next game, Brighton at home in the League Cup, not an easy game at all, and then Fulham away in the league. As for Aston Villa, they're flying high at the moment, 6th place, 2 points off of Spurs and Arsenal. Their next game, Everton at home in the League Cup, and Brighton at home next weekend. That should be a great game. So all in all, a really entertaining game at Stamford Bridge. Aston Villa come away with 3 points, and it's another home loss for Chelsea. Full time at Stamford Bridge, it's Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 1.
Thanks very much to our reporter Jack Hesson across that game at Stamford Bridge this afternoon. Chelsea just one victory all season so far. It's a dreadful, dreadful start. Let's just look at the Premier League standings before we're joined by Ayo Alabi very shortly. Manchester City still, of course, maintaining that 100% record following their victory at home to Nottingham Forest yesterday. 6 wins from 6, 2 points clear of Liverpool, who remain unbeaten as well, following their 3-1 win at home to West Ham this afternoon. Brighton, 5 wins from their opening 6 matches this Premier League campaign. They're having another cracking season. They're just a point further back from Liverpool on 15 points. And then Tottenham and Arsenal level on 14 points each, following their 2-2 draw at the Emirates this afternoon. At the other end of the table, Burnley rooted to the foot of the table, still looking for their first win of the season, of course. Just ahead of them, Luton and Sheffield United, of course, also still winless this campaign as well. Sheffield United against Newcastle is upon us. I'm delighted to say that we are joined by Ayo Alabi from NairaBet. A very good afternoon to you, Ayo.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm very well. I hope you're keeping well too. Now, it's the late Premier League kickoff. As I say, it is at Bramall Lane. Struggling Sheffield United hosting Newcastle. Kickoff just moments away. And just looking at the stats, AO, with Newcastle having won 6 of the last 7 meetings between these two sides, and Sheffield United having only picked up, of course, 1 point this campaign, I'm guessing that NairaBet have the Magpies as firm favourites for this encounter this evening.
Absolutely. We've got Newcastle at 1.53 favourites to win the game, and Sheffield United at 6.00, while a draw is at 4.33. You mentioned the particular statistic there about Newcastle winning, is it the last 6 or the last 5 out of 7 or something like that? The main thing is that most of these games they don't even reflect on this season or last season. It's been many seasons that Sheffield United have been in the Premier League. So I'm not too sure those stats actually matter. But Newcastle are a better side. We know they are in the Champions League. We know they've got a better squad than Sheffield United, and for me, it's more reflected from that than in the statistics of previous seasons when Sheffield United were in the Premier League. In terms of goals for this particular game, the first goal scorer in this game, the correct score line, Sheffield United to win 1-0 at 15.00. I'm not too sure that's going to happen. Newcastle were dreadful in Milan during the week. Who knows if they will be tired? Who knows whether they will struggle with the effects of Champions League football? But we've got them as favourites at 1.53. But Newcastle to win 1-0, 2-0, and 2-1, and all 7.00 respectively. Will Newcastle win the game? I think so. sometimes you could think, could this game be a draw? It's a tricky one to call because Newcastle are going to make changes. But for the purpose of betting for this game, I'm going to go for a draw in the first half, and that's 3.75. For me, that's the value of the bet. Also, I always go with Wilson to score the last goal in the game because he comes on as a substitute and he tends to score whether the winning goal or the goal that gets Newcastle a point most of the time. And that for him to score the last goal in the game is 4.75. Those are my two bets in the game. Newcastle to win the game. Newcastle to draw the game to be a draw. Sorry, I'm mixing up my words. To be a draw in the first half, which is 3.75, and James Wilson to score the last goal, which is 4.25 for James Wilson to score the last goal in the game. First goal scorer, Kieran Trippier, 23.00. There's some value in that in the sense that it takes the free kicks. What's his name? Isak to score the first goal, Alexander Isak to score the first goal is a tiny, miserly 3.00. That's a terrible price for me. I wouldn't be touching that with the batch pool. But as fate might have it, as I've just finished talking, imagine him scoring the first goal. Who knows? But 3.80, there's no good value in that. Callum Wilson to score the first goal, 3.75. Not very good as well, considering there are 22 players on the pitch. But to score the last goal, 4.25, Callum Wilson, a draw in the first half at 3.75. Total number of goals in the game, over 0.5 is 1.12, no value. Over 1.5 is 3.90. And if you think it's going to be over 2.5, meaning there'll be over 3 goals, up to 3 goals in the game, is 9.50. That has some value. With Newcastle winning maybe 2-1, who knows? There's some value in that at 9.50. Or even Sheffield United, maybe you're basing them at 9.50. So the over 2.5 goals in the game is a very, very, very good price. So the 3 good prices for me, the values in the market, over 2.5 goals, 9.50, a draw in the first half, which is 3.75, and Callum Wilson to score the last goal, 4.25.
Ayo Alabi, thanks very much for joining us again, and we will hopefully link up with you again next weekend. Have a great week.
You too. Take care.
Take care, Ayo. So that's Ayo Alabi just recapping his best value bets. He's going for a draw in the first half. 3.75. That's the value there. Callum Wilson to score the last goal in the game at 4.75 with Naira Bet. And total number of goals in the game, 2.5 goals, 9.50 for the value there with Naira Bet. The match is underway, of course. They're into the 4th minute now. Sheffield United against Newcastle. No goal news as it stands at the moment, but let's get an update on the early salvos in that game from our reporter covering the game for Football Live this afternoon. It's Duka Domba.
Yeah, good afternoon. Not a lot has happened here so far. Obviously, Sheffield United still looking for their first win of the season. Newcastle haven't conceded in their last 2 games in all competitions. So it all kind of goes towards a Newcastle win at the minute. But then again, this game has never ended in a draw in the Premier League. In the 8 meetings these 2 clubs have had, one side has always won. So it'll be an enthralling game for sure, and I'm pretty sure we'll see maybe a fair few goals in this one.
Just touching on Sheffield United for a moment, Duke. As we know, only 1 point this season. That was at home to Everton, wasn't it, a few weeks ago in a 2-2 draw. But there's been some battling performances from them, haven't there? And most notably against Manchester City and who can forget Tottenham last weekend, of course, when it went all very horribly wrong for them so late in the game as well. But they just need to learn to close matches out, don't they?
Yeah, they've been very, very unlucky, Sheffield United. They've put up a very, very good fight, especially against some of the big dogs, like you say, Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur. They have come very, very close. And that case of just seeing games out for Sheffield United, they find themselves in front, but then late on in games, they end up finding themselves behind. So for them today, if they do want to win this game and they do go ahead, it is about their game management and how they do see it out in the end.
And just a word on Callum Wilson. He's making the starting 11. As we just heard from Ao Alabi, he's for the value bet, he's gone for Wilson to score the last goal in the game this afternoon. And just looking at the stats for Callum Wilson, he's scored 14 times in his last 17 Premier League appearances, despite being in the starting 11 for just 7 of those fixtures. Quite an extraordinary record.
Yeah, that's a very, very good record, but we all know what Callum Wilson offers. He's a fantastic striker and has always done well in the Premier League. And, his goal record obviously backs that up, and it'd be exciting to see what he can do against a very fragile Sheffield United defence. They've shipped in a fair few goals this season, so Callum Wilson could well have a field day here.
Thanks very much, Duka. That's Duka Domba, who's covering Sheffield United against Newcastle this afternoon. They are into the 5th minute of that match, and it remains Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 0. We still have a couple of other matches that we are covering for you on Sunday's edition of Football Live, including our featured match in the German Bundesliga, which sees Eintracht Frankfurt taking on Freiburg at the Deutsche Bank Park. They're already underway in that game as well. And let's get an update on the early exchanges from Cam Wilson.
Hi, Chris. It was a brilliant chance for Freiburg as a ball's whipped in from Salah. It finds Doan, who's still yet to score this season. It's a brilliant stop from Kevin Trapp. Hits it on the volley. Just as the cross comes in, it goes for a Freiburg corner.
So that's the update on the early exchanges there. And just looking at the stats here with the record, Cam, Eintracht Frankfurt unbeaten this season, but they've only won one of those games.
Yeah, and they're only scoring at the moment a goal a game. It's not been good enough, really. Obviously, with looking at Frankfurt, they lost Kolo Muani right at the end, so they couldn't get any replacements in for him. You then lose Kamada as well on a free, and have the replacements been good enough? I don't think so.
And of course, as for Freiburg, I mean, they've conceded very heavily this season, haven't they? They've lost their last 2 fixtures at home to Dortmund 4-2 and 5-0 away at Stuttgart. Difficult matches, but they're conceding very heavily at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. That was 9 goals in their last 2 games. Obviously, that 4-2 against Dortmund, really emphasising. I mean, Dortmund haven't played too well this season, but they just made it look so easy. And then, it's had a real reaction for them. They've switched now to a back 5 rather than going with that 4-2-3-1 they started most of the season. And it almost makes you worry if you're a fan for them, because if you're changing the tactics that you've set out through pre-season already, something's clearly not right. A worrying sign for the season ahead.
Pretty close game to call, I think, this afternoon. That's Frankfurt against Freiburg in the German Bundesliga. Frankfurt, of course, who dispatched Aberdeen in the Europa Conference League in midweek by 2-1. Any further developments from that game, you will hear them first and foremost here on Football Live on Brila FM. It remains goalless at Bramall Lane between Sheffield United and Newcastle. We have action from Italian Serie A this evening as well, kicking off in about 22 minutes time or so. Bologna against Napoli. And as we build up to that game, we say a very good evening to Ethan Gardner.
Yeah, good evening, Chris. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Stadio Renato Dallara for tonight's game. Both sides looking to get off the mark, really. It's been a stuttering start for both the home side, Bologna, and the away side, Napoli. Napoli, of course, with the mighty Victor Osimhen up front, but they are struggling to begin with. They've played 4 and won just 2, finding themselves in 8th as things stand, looking really to go back into the top 4 today if they can win with a solid goal difference. Last weekend, a 2-2 draw away at Genoa continued their frustrations, and they have made 3 changes to their side since then, bringing in Nathan at centre-back, Oliveira at left-back, and Giacomo Raspadori is joining Victor Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia up front. There's just one change for the home side, Bologna, who have also had a disappointing start, winning just 1 of their opening 4 with 2 losses. They have changed their right-back, bringing in the Stefan Posch for Silvestri. Napoli, of course, did win away in midweek in the Champions League 2-1 against Braga, and they're hoping that today they can get their Serie A season properly off and running on match day 5.
Thanks very much to our reporter Ethan Gardner, who is across Bologna against Napoli this evening. Victor Osimhen, of course, leading the line there. We have an opening chance, I believe, at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United against Newcastle. Here's Duka Domba.
Yeah, the chance comes for the away side, and it's Callum Wilson, that man who we spoke about. He takes on John Egan. He's one-on-one against him, and a little step over, just kind of gets round him and hits the shot across goal. But Wes Foderingham is equal to it and keeps it in his hands. But still 0-0 here at Bramall Lane, but Newcastle definitely looking the better side here.
So it remains goalless there. In case you weren't aware of the results from earlier on today in the Premier League, let's just run through them again for you. In the North London derby at the Emirates, it ended all square. Arsenal 2, Tottenham 0. An absolutely cracking game of football that was this afternoon. Arsenal, of course, it was who went ahead in that game. An own goal from Christian Romero. That was cancelled out by Son Heung-min, who equalised for Arsenal. The Gunners, of course, then went back in front, courtesy of Bukayo Saka converting from the penalty spot, but Son Heung-min scoring his second of the game as the points were shared there at the Emirates. Brighton dispatched Bournemouth quite comfortably by 3-1 at the Amex. A couple of goals there for Karu Mitoma as they won by 3-1, having gone behind in that game as well. Elsewhere, Aston Villa took home the points from Stamford Bridge with a 1-0 win, courtesy of a 73rd minute goal from Ollie Watkins. This after Malagusto had been sent off for Chelsea just before the hour mark. Their woes continue. And Liverpool put 3 past West Ham as they won by 3-1 with goals from Salah, Nunez and Diogo Jota. Jarrod Bowen replying for West Ham. So that's how it all panned out this afternoon in this afternoon's Premier League action. We've already touched on some of the European action that obviously took place in midweek as well. Just looking at some of the highlights. Manchester City, of course, beginning the defence of their title, coming from behind to beat Red Star Belgrade 3-1 at the Etihad, with Julian Alvarez scoring 2 goals to secure that victory. Erling Haaland, surprisingly, not among the goals on that occasion. Meanwhile, Newcastle in action as we speak, of course, competing in the Champions League for the first time in 20 years, coming away with that point in Milan after a really good battling defensive display. City travel to Leipzig for their next Champions League encounter as the Magpies host PSG. Those ties taking place on the 4th of October. Elsewhere, Arsenal returned from their 6-year absence in European football's blue ribbon event with a convincing 4-0 demolition of PSV at the Emirates. The Gunners, of course, racing into a 3-0 lead at the break, courtesy of goals from Saka. On the score sheet again, of course, this afternoon, Trossard and Gabriel Jesus, with Martin Odegaard adding a 4th 20 minutes from time. And at the Allianz Arena, Harry Kane continued his really impressive form with new club Bayern Munich, scoring from the penalty spot and creating an assist as the German champions dispatched Manchester United 4-3 in what was another fragile display from Erik ten Hag's side, although, of course, they got the 3 points at Burnley yesterday in the Premier League. Here is Harry Kane now on Bayern's Champions League victory over United in midweek.
Yeah, I think a crazy finish. I think for the majority of the game, we really controlled it, dictated the tempo. Obviously went 3-1 ahead. And then, yeah, we just kind of lost a bit of concentration there in the last 5 minutes. And thankfully we was able to hold on to the lead. But overall, it's a really good start to the campaign against a tough side in Man United. Yeah, it's been nice. It's obviously always great to score, but as always, always room for improvement. So we started the season well. We know we can improve, but I feel like we're building towards that. So yeah, we can just enjoy this, and we've got a quick turnaround and another home game here on Saturday.
That's Harry Kane speaking after Bayern's 4-3 victory over Manchester United in the Champions League in midweek. And of course, he netted a hat-trick yesterday in the Bundesliga as Bayern completed a demolition job of Bochum in a 7-0 win. Elsewhere in the Champions League in midweek, Mikel Arteta's side, well, just to recap, they actually face Arsenal facing an away trip to Lens in their next game as Manchester United host Galatasaray. Both of those fixtures are on the 3rd of October. Elsewhere in the Champions League, Jude Bellingham, what form he's been in since he's moved to Real Madrid. He scored a late winner for them against Union Berlin. Here he is speaking at the press conference after that match.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I'd much rather keep scoring in the 90 plus than the 15th, even though it might take a bit of strain off my heart and the fans' heart. Yeah, it's always good to score late because it normally confirms the game. And for us, I think we dominated the game. A lot of the ball was for us. I don't really remember them having too many clear chances, but they defended really well. They were so organised. And it was just that mentality that we've showed all season, that mentality of even if we go down or even if there's setbacks, we keep going until the end. And, you know, I always believe that there's chances in it for us at the end, and it's just about being in the right position to take them.
Jude Bellingham on his very late winner for Real against Union Berlin in midweek. And, of course, he will be in action later on this evening in an 8 o'clock kickoff in La Liga as Real face Atletico Madrid. What a great game that should be. You're listening to Football Live here on Brila FM. Let's just quickly head back to Bramall Lane for an update. Sheffield United against Newcastle. And I believe that the hosts have created an opportunity. Duka Domba.
Yeah, brilliant cross comes in from, I think it was McAtee, and it finds Thomas on the far side, who's completely unmarked. He had all the time in the world to even bring the ball down and then maybe go for goal, but instead he hits it first time and just mishits it completely and it goes wide. But just before that, really sad to see, Harvey Barnes has gone off injured and Anthony Gordon has come on. It just looked like Harvey Barnes just pulled up in the middle of the pitch, and now Anthony Gordon is on and does replace him. But still 0-0 here at Bramall Lane.
Still goalless then in Yorkshire. Let's just run through some final scores and latest scores for you from around the leagues. In the Championship, it ended Stoke 1, Hull 3 earlier on today. They have about 5 minutes remaining at the Stadium of Light, where it still remains goalless between Sunderland and Cardiff. In the Scottish Premiership, closing in on full time in both of these matches. Aberdeen running riot at home to Ross County. It's Aberdeen 4, Ross County 0, and Rangers still holding on to that slender lead against Motherwell by 1-0. Cyril Dessers of the Nigerian with the only goal of the game so far in that match. Elsewhere from around Europe in the German Bundesliga, it's currently goalless. Frankfurt against Freiburg. Of course, that's our featured match in the Bundesliga this afternoon. Earlier on today, Leverkusen beat Heidenheim by 4-1. In the Dutch Eredivisie, a couple of results to give you, or one result to give you. Sparta Rotterdam beat Vitesse by 1-0. Ajax against Feyenoord. Feyenoord were leading in that game by 3-0. It was abandoned due to some crowd disturbances, so I'll have to replay that at some point during the course of the season. Elsewhere, a latest score to give you. They just started the second half between Waalwijk and Twente. It's currently goalless there, and at half-time it's Zwolle 0, Alkmaar 1. As we continue to go around the European leagues in La Liga, Real Sociedad 4, Getafe 3 is how it ended earlier on today. It's currently 1 apiece between Rayo Vallecano and Villarreal into the 73rd minute there. In Italian Serie A, a couple of results to give you from earlier on today. Atalanta 2, Cagliari 0, Udinese 0, Fiorentina 2. And in the early kickoff, Inter won at Empoli by 1-0 in that game. Federico Di Marco with the only goal of the game. And that means that Inter go back to the top of Serie A following that victory. In fact, they were top on goal difference anyway. 3 points clear of Milan. They're on 15 points at the moment with 100% record, 5 wins from 5. Milan currently in second spot following their 1-0 victory yesterday in Serie A against Verona. Elsewhere from around Europe in League 1, some final scores to give you. Metz 0, Strasbourg 1, Le Havre 2, Clermont 1, Lens 2, Toulouse 1. And they're approaching half-time in the match between Montpellier and Rennes. It's currently goalless there. PSG in action tonight at home to Marseille. And into the Belgian Jupiler Pro League. A final score, Genk 2, Genk 3, Saint-Trodin 3. 6-goal thriller there with a hat-trick as well in that game for Aboubakary Keita. And another latest score to give you there as we close in on full-time. It's Cercle Brugge 0, Royal Union 2. They've just added to their lead in that game. Anderlecht are at home to Club Brugge. That kicks off at 5:30. So in around about 40 minutes' time. You're up to date with all of the latest scores from around Europe. You're listening to Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live.
Sports Radio 88.9 Brila FM.
Take Brila anywhere, everywhere.
Yes, you can take Brila with you anywhere, everywhere.
The Brila app is available for free download on Google Play. It is also there on the Apple iTunes Store. Yes, on Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store.
Look out for the Brila football and microphone logo with the letters BRILA in green colour.
That is our authentic app. It gives you Brila FM, Brila.net, BrilaSports.tv and all the extra betting tips, live score, plus our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google Plus and YouTube posts.
Sports fun. You can post your videos and eyewitness reports.
Brila, B-R-I-L-A. Available for download on Google Play and the Apple iTunes Store.
You are listening to Football Live. Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
The Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brila FM with Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM 88.9 and 101.1 FM.
Follow NairaBet on Twitter @NairaBet and on Facebook @NairaBet Online to take part in our infamous giveaways, and you too can win big. NairaBet, the home of sports betting and fast payments in Nigeria.
This is Football Live.
And you could not have scripted this.
It's crazy, absolutely insane. Oh my dearie me. I don't want to laugh or cry.
It's a show that's packed to the brim. Oh my word, what is going on here?
An unbelievable day here on Football Live.
Means there's action everywhere you look.
Great entertainment.
That's fantastic.
Wow, just wow.
You are listening to Football Live.
Coming up next Saturday on Football Live with Josh Bailey. Manchester United taking on Crystal Palace. Liverpool go to Tottenham Hotspur. Live and exclusive on Brila FM. Let's get back to the action on Football Live.
Hit it, boys.
Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
And we have an opening goal at Bramall Lane.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
And which way has it gone? Let's rejoin Duka Dumba.
Yes, it is a goal for the visitors. It's Newcastle United who take the lead. A brilliant bit of play by the substitute Anthony Gordon by the bar line and puts it back to Sean Longstaff, who buries the ball brilliantly in the goal. And it's deserved for Newcastle, I won't lie. They've been all over Sheffield United at the minute. Sheffield United really have a lot of gaps in their defence at the minute. You can clearly see that. But Newcastle thoroughly deserve the lead here, and it is 1-0 at Bramall Lane.
So Newcastle then take the lead at Bramall Lane. Sean Longstaff with the goal for the Magpies. Newcastle have a great record actually against newly promoted sides. They're unbeaten in 14 league matches against sides that have gone up from the Championship, which is a terrific record. And we'll keep tabs, of course, throughout the course of the match here on Football Live. But it's Newcastle who opened their account this afternoon with a goal from Sean Longstaff. We were touching on some of the European action, of course, that took place in the Champions League. What about the Europa League? Plenty of action there too. Of course, there was mixed success for Premier League clubs in the competition on Thursday night. West Ham, who, of course, qualified for the competition following that historic success in the Champions League back in June against Fiorentina. They came from behind to beat Serbian outfit Baka Topola in a 3-1 win for the Hammers. And Liverpool, of course, won by the same scoreline in Austria as they came from a goal down to make a winning start, beating LASK. Jurgen Klopp becoming the first Liverpool manager to win 50 European matches. But disappointment, as we know, for Brighton in their first ever European adventurers. Despite coming from behind twice, they were finally outgunned by AEK Athens in a 5-goal affair at the Amex. Meanwhile, in the European Conference League, Aston Villa's first European campaign for 13 years got off to a poor start as they were beaten 3-2 by Legia Warsaw. The next round of fixtures for Premier League clubs in the Europa League. West Ham travel to Freiburg. Marseille take on Brighton. What a great trip that will be for Seagulls fans down to the south of France. And Liverpool are at home to Union Saint-Gilloise of Belgium. All of those matches take place on the 5th of October. And in the European Conference League, Aston Villa will be at home to Bosnia and Herzegovinian outfit Zrinjski Mostar. That also kicks off on the 5th of October. You're listening to Football Live here on Brila FM. So Newcastle in front at Sheffield United at the moment. Our featured match, of course, in the Bundesliga is at the Deutsche Bank Park. Frankfurt against Freiburg. I think we're still looking for our first goal in that game. Cam Wilson.
Yes, not too much has really happened. When Frankfurt have got the ball, they're just trying to hit the early cross. There's no one even in there. And the same's going with Freiburg. There was an absolute brilliant run on the right-hand side. It was Doan. It was a lovely little bit of skill. Beats his man. There's no one in the box for him. And so rather than just playing a simple cutback, he takes what I'm going to assume was just a cross. And it wasn't a shot because it was so weak if it was. And he should be embarrassed. And it just goes straight into the keeper's hands, giving up what was potentially looking like to be a good counter-attack. Both teams have been really lethargic in their thoughts, the way just to break a team down. Still 0-0, 26 minutes in.
So it remains goalless then at the Deutsche Bank Park. Just a reminder, of course, kicking off at 5 in Italian Serie A will be across all the action taking place at the Stadio Renato Dallara as Bologna host Napoli, the defending champions, of course. There was plenty of action, of course, in the Premier League, as mentioned earlier on today. We've got John Kane now to look at some of the betting and discuss some of the results this afternoon as well. And John, just looking at Arsenal against Tottenham, a point apiece, and probably on the balance of play, that was just about the right result.
I think it was, yes. I think Arsenal fans were probably a bit disappointed. Having had a great season last season, and they coming in this season with very similar mentality and very, very similar style of football, and they are doing very well so far this season. But I think it's very hard, isn't it, to say that if they were surprised by the way Tottenham played today, because from what they've seen over the last few games that Spurs were involved. And I think before the game, probably Arsenal will say, yeah, this game is ours, 3 points. But after the game, I think probably you're going to get some Arsenal fans, you know what, we understand why Spurs have been so good, and 2 points is actually a right score. And a point each is probably the fair result so far.
Yeah, it's probably arguably the biggest test that Tottenham have had really this season, isn't it, John? And you know, there's no doubt about it. Ange Postecoglou has made a difference with Ange Ball. They remain undefeated. So too, of course, Arsenal this season. But it certainly looks promising for Spurs fans this campaign.
Oh, absolutely. I think Spurs fans will tell you that they haven't seen so much exciting football with good positive results over probably in the last 20 years or so. You know, probably go back to the days of Terry Venables in the 90s when they were exciting to watch. They were building a really good team. of course, that all got disrupted a bit, slightly off football when Terry Reynolds was eventually sacked. Not for footballing reasons, of course, but he sort of like put a bit of a sour mouth in the Spurs fans. And then they've gone through the times of Mourinho, Conte, and of course Pochettino. But I think the style of play that Angus is playing is just giving him the freedom of playing football the way how Spurs fans like to see it, and also probably that what the players want. I mean, you look at the players that they have, they've got so many players who actually love going forward. They're very attacking minded players. If it was with Charleston, Kulusevski, Son, Maddison, and Manor Solomon and a few others. So I think Angus Postecoglou is probably the only thing that we have to change. Was in the back. He brought Vicario, who's done very well so far since coming in from Empoli. You can see actually Empoli struggling at the moment. Just looking at some of the results from since the beginning of the season, and that probably goes down to Vicario because he'd been one of the best goalkeepers in Serie A last season. And then you can see he brought in Mickey van der Ven and alongside Romero. Dyer, more or less, and Hugo Lloris, they might be part of the squad, but they're not really part of the team spiritually, in a manner of speaking, because they're not really there. They were given the time to leave, and I believe, Chris, you've got another goal at Bramall Lane.
Yes, further goal news indeed coming in from Bramall Lane.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Indeed, Newcastle have extended their lead. It's now Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 2 as we approach the half-hour mark in that game. Dan Burn has added a second for the Magpies. So Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 2 is now the latest there at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United only picked up 1 point so far this season, and it's going horribly wrong for them this evening at home to Newcastle. We'll be painting the picture of that goal very shortly with our reporter, Duka Domba. Before we do that, let's just give you an update on the latest score from our featured match in the German Bundesliga. It's still currently goalless. Frankfurt against Freiburg into the 31st minute there. And a reminder, of course, kicking off, we're actually just about underway now in the Italian Serie A. Napoli, the defending champions, are in action away to Bologna. We'll be across that game for you here on Football Live on Brila FM. Let's just cross very briefly back to John Kane again as we just review the action that's taken place this afternoon. I was just going to say, John, Tottenham with another big test next weekend as they entertain Liverpool at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And Liverpool, their unbeaten run extended with that 3-1 win at home to West Ham.
Oh, it's been absolutely brilliant result for Liverpool today. 3-1 against West Ham, and West Ham are a very good team this season. And so to beat them 3-1, even if it's at home, is a very, very good result. Of course, that takes Liverpool second in the table for the time being, of course. I think in the last few years, Spurs have been a bit scared and sketchy when they face the teams like Arsenal, Liverpool, and Manchester United. I think this season they might be a bit different. They've already beaten Man United by 2-0. They drew with Arsenal by 2, away at the Emirates, 2 goals each, as we've seen earlier on today. And I think they're more or less welcoming the actual arrival of Liverpool at their stadium next weekend. But you can never underestimate Liverpool. They built their own team, haven't they? They brought in Solis-Bow, who's been absolutely brilliant. Alexis McAllister. Yes, they've lost a few players, such as Jordan Henderson and Fabinho, to the Saudi Arabian League, but they've replaced them with some youngster players, haven't they? And brilliant players as well. And they had a bit of rebuilding, haven't they, towards the end of the last season and during the summer. And so far, the promises for Liverpool looks really, really great. But it's going to be a very hard trip for them going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium next week.
Yeah, it certainly will be. But just touching on Liverpool, as we know, it was a very, very poor season, wasn't it, by their standards last campaign. But there just seems to be a bit more grit about them this season, a different mentality.
They have, absolutely, they have. They've been brilliant, not just results-wise, but they've been brilliant to watch. And it's just what I think. Well, I said it yesterday, and I say it again. Every player, every team, they always go through bad patches. It could last a couple of months, could last a year. And last season, Liverpool were in that kind of period, and I think sometimes managers lose their jobs because of it, but they kept to Jurgen Klopp. They stuck with Jurgen Klopp, the Liverpool board, and I think he's the right decision for them. And in the end of the day, look at Liverpool now. They're second in the league. They're behind Manchester City, and definitely they're not just there by show. They're actually there on credit because the performances so far this season have been really, really good.
Yeah, it certainly looks as though they will be up and challenging for the Premier League title again this campaign. We'll be back with John Kane very, very shortly as we continue with our review of this afternoon's Premier League action. But there's been a third goal now at Bramall Lane.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Well, they had a bit of a rocky patch in recent matches before that win at home to Brentford in the Premier League last weekend. But Newcastle, well, they are enjoying themselves this afternoon at Bramall Lane because they now lead by 3-0. Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 3 is the latest there. And Sven Botman has added a third goal for Newcastle, his first of the campaign, the defender on the score sheet. And it is now Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 3. And we'll be getting details of that third goal for Newcastle very, very shortly. Let's just check in now with Cam Wilson, who's watching Frankfurt against Freiburg in our featured match in the German Bundesliga at the Deutsche Bank Park with some injury news there. Cam.
Yeah, Dina Mbibi, he looks to just beat his man, and then the ball's bouncing still, so he goes up to head it, but Ginter's panicking. He knows there's a counter-attack coming on, and he just throws himself right into it. Ginter has been down for about 4 minutes since that collision where he jumped up, and then he just fell, landed right on that hit, and he's been holding on to it for quite a long time now. Fortunately for Dina Mbibi, he's come right back up. He seems to be okay, but Ginter might be looking to be coming off in the next couple of minutes. Still 0-0, 37 minutes in.
Thanks very much to Cam Wilson. They are underway at the Stadio Renato Dall'Ara as Bologna host Napoli. They played around about 5 or 6 minutes there, I think. And is it still goalless, Ethan Gardner?
It is still goalless. It's mainly just a midfield battle so far. A couple of little fouls here and there, just to not allow each other to get into a proper rhythm early days. A couple of trying balls forward from Kvicha Kvaratskhelia towards Victor Osimhen, but he's not been able to get himself into the game yet. Both sides, it's pretty cagey, and after about 5 minutes, it is 0-0 here between Bologna and Napoli.
7 minutes past 5 on this Sunday evening. You are listening to Football Live. We'll be heading back to Tony, to rather FJ and the crew in Nigeria in about just under 20 minutes time or so for all of your social media comments. Let's cross to Bramall Lane now, though, for news of that third goal for Newcastle. They're running riot at the moment. Duke Adomba.
I tell you what, you usually see this sort of defending in Sunday League level. Sheffield United are awful at the back, really, really bad at the minute. 2 goals, both coming from set pieces. The second goal that they scored was from Dan Burn, corner whipped into the back post. Dan Burn loses his marker and just comfortably heads it in. And the second one, Kieran Trippier has a free kick on the right-hand side. Easy ball in. Sven Botman with a free header. And it's just a comfortable lead. Sheffield United look so disjointed in this game, and Newcastle thoroughly deserved their lead. As it stands, Sheffield United 0, Newcastle United 3.
Well, if you were listening to Football Live a little bit earlier on when we were with Io Alabi from NairaBet, one of his value bets was total number of goals in the game, 2.5 goals at 9.50. We've reached that already. So it remains Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 3 in that game. Let's head back now to our featured match that we are covering in the Italian Serie A, because I believe that Napoli have come pretty close to taking the lead in that game. Ethan Gardner.
Yeah, there was a big chance actually here for Napoli. Victor Osimhen hitting the post. He hit it across the goalkeeper on the half volley from the right-hand side, and it hits the left-hand post. You'd think normally he would finish that chance. It was a lovely ball into him over the top by Zielinski. Napoli could and probably should be 1-0 up here, but after 7 minutes, it remains 0-0. Bologna 0, Napoli 0.
Thanks very much there to Ethan Gardner, our reporter for Football Live, as we just continue with our review of the afternoon's action in the Premier League with John Kane. And John, just turning to Chelsea against Aston Villa. I mean, where do you start with Chelsea? Season's going from bad to worse.
It is, isn't it? And I mean, they brought in a really good manager, haven't they? They brought in Pochettino, and he's more or less trying to setting the squad, and they brought in so many players on top of the players that actually they had back in January, and they spent nearly £500 million in January, and even more money was spent on players. Yes, people can say that some of the players have left, as Beliqueta, Alonso, and a few others, and Kante, of course, a few others left the club, but still not good enough. And now they are 14th. I know it's early days, but to get a player sent off today at home and you lose to Brighton, who've been absolutely brilliant to watch, haven't they? And probably Jack Hassan will tell you how good Aston Villa are, but it's just not good enough for Chelsea, and it's not acceptable, to be fair, to the club and status that they are, and they have been over the last 20-25 years in the Premier League, and the achievements that they had. To see themselves in that sort of position is not really good enough. Today probably the sending off didn't help, but we normally see Chelsea, even with 10 men, carry on, and you cannot help but put a question mark over some of the signings. You have put a question mark over even the manager. Pochettino is very, very good in dealing with the youngsters that come in normally, and I think that's why he's struggling a bit here at Chelsea. He struggled a bit at PSG as well, trying to deal with so many big names in that squad, and I think with Tottenham beforehand, his struggle wasn't that great, because most of the players that he dealt with, more or less, they're all youngsters at the time, and they're sort of coming in. Pochettino is brilliant to deal with that. It's probably finding it a bit hard trying to deal with the big names that Chelsea have at the moment.
And one of the biggest problems for Chelsea at the moment, John, I mean, they've got a mountain of problems, really, with just one win from their opening 6 matches in the Premier League, is on the goal-scoring front, because only Luton Town and Burnley have scored fewer goals than Chelsea this season. They've just netted on 5 occasions.
No, absolutely. Like I said, it's not acceptable for Chelsea to be in that kind of position, and to give that kind of stat, it should be embarrassing, even early on in stages of the season. And you look at the next few games; they're playing Brighton at home in a few days in the League Cup, and they're away to Fulham, and away to Burnley, and then at home to Arsenal, and then at home to Brentford, and then they're playing Tottenham as well away. It's not. You look at these matches and you think, can Chelsea get a few points out of it? Fulham, away from home, Fulham been very good. Burnley, they're struggling, but again, like you said, the goals between them both is very, very few. And they're at home to Arsenal. Arsenal are very good this season. Home to Brentford. Well, Brentford looked swept yesterday, but they're still a very good team, and it's the West London derby. And then you get again one of the biggest rivals at Tottenham away. I mean, how long Pochettino are going to have, and is he counting how many points that he can pick up from these games? Because it's going to be very, very hard for him to do so with the performances that they're having and lack of goals. Nicholas Jackson, he did score quite a few goals for Villarreal over the last couple of seasons, but so far I don't see him. He's really adapting that well, and the number of goals that he scored is not many. It did surprise me when they brought him in and they put him as a number 9 for Chelsea, because his record is not the best in La Liga. Yet, I'm not doubting that he's a very good player, but surely him adapting from the La Liga to the Premier League is proved to be very, very hard at the moment.
And we have to have a word about Aston Villa, of course, as well. They slipped up a couple of times this season, most notably on the opening day, of course, when they were thrashed at Newcastle by 5-1. But it's been a fairly decent start to their campaign in the Premier League.
Oh, they've been absolutely brilliant to watch, haven't they? I mean, they've lost to Aston Villa not long to Newcastle with a heavy result. I believe it was 5-1. But since then, they've been firing at all cylinders. They've beaten Everton. They've beaten Burnley away. They've lost to Liverpool, but again, their results and the way they play is absolutely brilliant. And today, they just showed how good they are, because it's not anyone, regardless of how Chelsea are, it's always hard to play at Stamford Bridge away from home. And Aston Villa today proven that they can play at Stamford Bridge and they can play anywhere else to that matter. And a brilliant goal by Ollie Watkins as well, who I believe is his first goal of the season. But some of the players they brought, I mean, Ousmane Dembele, he's just brilliant coming in from Bayer Leverkusen. Every time I watch him, I'm so impressed with the player, and he's a great addition to the Villa Park side.
Yeah, and their cracking record in the capital continues as well. It's now 5 Premier League matches unbeaten under Unai Emery. We'll be back with John Kane very shortly as we review all the action that took place at the Amex earlier on today as Brighton beat Bournemouth by 3-1 on the south coast of England. Let's head back to Bramall Lane, though, now for an update on Sheffield United against Newcastle, and Newcastle threatening to score even more. Duke Adomba.
Yeah, Newcastle are out on a demolition job at the minute, I'll tell you that. Callum Wilson coming close twice now. He's really purring to add to that scoreline now. Newcastle just look really good here. Sheffield United don't know what to do with their press. And Sheffield United just looks so disjointed, and Newcastle are really planning to take advantage of that. And Callum Wilson I can see him scoring any minute now. He looks a real man who wants to get on that score sheet at the minute.
And Newcastle still rampant at the moment. It remains Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 3 there at Bramall Lane as we head back to our featured match in Serie A. Bologna against Napoli. And is it still goalless, Ethan Gardner?
It is still goalless, but again, it probably shouldn't be. Victor Osimhen with another chance. He stood up tall and got up first to a header that came in from the left-hand side. A really nice cross from Kvaratskhelia. Osimhen just headed wide, despite getting there quite comfortably. However, from that left-hand side, it should be a bit easier for Napoli now, because Bologna's first choice right-back, Stefan Posch, the only change from their lineup last week, he came into the team today, and after just 10 minutes, you have to feel sorry for him. He's gone off injured. It looked like a muscular problem, clutching his hamstring. He's been replaced by Silvestri. I'm not to say that that's easier, but I'm sure Kvaratskhelia Kvaratskhelia will be relieved that the man that was chosen to line up against him has already gone off the pitch. It remains 0-0 after 13 minutes there.
So Victor Osimhen coming close now on a couple of occasions trying to break the deadlock for Napoli in that match at Bologna this evening, but it still remains goalless. Bologna 0, Napoli 0. How are things panning out at the Deutsche Bank Park, where Frankfurt are entertaining Freiburg in our featured match in the Bundesliga? Here's Cam Wilson.
Yep, just one real chance that's happened so far since I've last spoke to you, and it was all from Doan. He picks the pocket of Nkunku and just charges down the right channel, and then he plays a lovely little cross. And you have to feel sorry for him as Salai, in the middle of the goal, just decides he's going to miss-hit the ball. He lifts his foot way too high as the ball's just a low cross along the floor. But fortunately for him, it falls to Holler on the edge of the area. And he has the whole goal to look at, and somehow he drags it wide. It's really poor. And that's been the theme of the game. It's always been a miss-hit trying to create a chance. It's a mistake from the other team. It's going to get either side an opportunity. And that's the reason why it's still 0-0, 48 minutes in.
So they're deep into first half stoppage time there at Deutsche Bank Park. It remains goalless. Frankfurt 0, Freiburg 0. I believe that VAR were possibly looking into a VAR possible red card in that game. Junior Dina Ebimbe possibly is involved with that. He's going to review it, and Frankfurt could be down to 10 men. We'll keep you posted on that. No decision made at the moment. You're listening to Football Live here on Brila FM. Let's just complete our review of the afternoon's Premier League action with John Kane. at the Amex, John. Well, Brighton against Bournemouth, and Brighton's fortunes, good fortunes they are too, continue.
They do, don't they? They're playing very, very well in the Premier League, haven't they? Of course, they are. They did lose in Europe, but they're new to that kind of style of atmosphere and football in European football. But as far as the Premier League is concerned, they're doing very, very well. And the way they play is just beautiful to watch, and with the right results. And again, they're one of the clubs who lost some of the players, McAllister and of course Tossard. Beforehand back in January, but they brought in quite a few new players. Mohamed Dawood on a free from Borussia Dortmund, and they've just been brilliant to watch. And if they carry on playing the way they do and getting the results that they do, you won't be surprised if you actually see them in the top four. But I know it's early days, but it's always encouraging to see teams like that. And Roberto De Zerbi has been doing a magnificent job at the Amex Stadium, and after taking over from Graham Potter. Of course, we can't not mention Graham Potter, who started the ball rolling at Brighton, didn't he? And then he left them to go to Chelsea. Now he's out of the job, and Azerbi is in charge. And not only that, but they finished in Euro for the first time in their history, and they carried on playing with that beautiful momentum this season. They've been absolutely brilliant to watch.
Just to confirm, no red card for Frankfurt, so they breathe a huge sigh of relief. They still have a full complement of 11 players. It remains 0-0. It is half-time there as well. John, just very briefly, just going back to Brighton, you just have to look at that result last week against Manchester United, a 3-1 win. And they were playing, we'll have to remember, a second-string side effectively ahead of that Europa League match, which they ultimately lost, of course. But the total value of the team, the starting 11 that weekend, just 16 million. So they've got talent at depth, haven't they, in all positions? And that was demonstrated following that win at Old Trafford last week.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think you have to look at the scouts that Brighton been using over the last 2-3 seasons, and whatever they've been doing, and who are they actually doing that job for them. They're doing a brilliant job, and to beat Man United with that scoreline, regardless again how bad the season is for Manchester United, still beating them by that kind of scoreline is very, very impressive, and it just shows that they're not really fearing anyone at the moment. If it was an Amex or at Old Trafford, and again, the scouting side of things is very important at any club, and especially teams like Brighton, who rely on some of the players that they bring in with less expensive, shall we say, than the other counterparts that Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham pay for. So for what they've done, what is actually a very, very good job, and they seem to be doing it carry on this season.
Thanks very much there to John Kane with our Premier League review of this afternoon's action. There is, of course, Premier League action currently in progress at the moment at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United at home to Newcastle. I think we're closing in on half-time in that game. We, in fact, might have reached half-time. Duka Domba.
Yeah, just about coming to half-time here. I'm pretty sure we're near enough there. It's been all Newcastle. Sheffield United really look disjointed. They've really got to change things up in the second half. How they do that, I don't know, because they're already playing a defensive formation and yet still keep the defensive shape is all over the place. So how they change it, I do not know, but I can see this being quite the thrashing this afternoon. But as it stands at half-time, it is Sheffield United 0, Newcastle United 3, and it's all Newcastle here.
All Newcastle then at Bramall Lane. Let's very briefly get a half-time report on our featured match in the Bundesliga. Frankfurt against Freiburg. Here's Cam Wilson.
Yep, there was a huge collision right near the end there as Dina and Bibi just scrambling to get the ball on the edge of the area. And he puts his leg quite high. It goes right into where the shin area of Sildilla is as he just tried to clear the ball away. It looked quite nasty, and the ref's gone to look at the VAR, and he decided to give it as not a red card, and he went straight over to the players and explained exactly why. It's quite refreshing to see, really. It was 3 Frankfurt players storming around him, Freiburg, and he explained that there's nothing in the way of Dino Mbibi, he couldn't stop his run. His feet was always going to be that high anyway, just for him to try and get the ball. And even though it's a nasty, it looks almost like he's been trodden on when you slow it down to slow motion. But in the run of play, there's nothing he could do. And at half-time, it ended 0-0, no red card.
Let's just run through a few final scores for you from this afternoon's football action in the Championship. Cardiff won at the Stadium of Light. They beat Sunderland by 1-0 there with a very, very late goal from Mark McGuinness. In the Scottish Premiership, it ended Aberdeen 4, Ross County 0 and Rangers 1, Motherwell 0. The only goal of the game there coming from Cyril Dessers of Nigeria to give all 3 points to Rangers. In the Dutch Eredivisie, a couple of latest scores to give you. Waalwijk 0, Twente 0 into the 82nd minute there. And it's Zwolle 0, Alkmaar 2 with about 11 minutes of time remaining. Elsewhere from around Europe, some other latest scores to give you in Italian Serie A. We'll come back to that very, very shortly. Meanwhile, in the French League 1 at halftime is Montpellier 0, Rennes 0, PSG in action later on this evening in a 7:45 kickoff. Back to Italian Serie A, of course, as we know, our featured match, currently goalless, Bologna against Napoli, halfway through the first half there. You're listening to Football Live, and right now we head back over to our colleagues in Nigeria for all of your social media comments and a roundup of the Nigerian players who have been in action today.
Let's get back to the action on Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
Welcome back to Football Live, 5:38 this Sunday evening. We are with you through until 6:30. The second half has just about got underway. Sheffield United against Newcastle. Of course, Newcastle carrying that 3-0 lead into the break, courtesy of goals from Sean Longstaff, Dan Burn and Sven Botman. An absolute mountain to climb for Sheffield United. We'll be back across that game with Duka Domba very, very shortly here on Football Live. Second half has also restarted in our featured match in the German Bundesliga as well. Frankfurt against Freiburg. Cam Wilson is watching that game for us here on Football Live. It's currently 0-0 at the break there, of course. Let's just check back in now with Ethan Gardner, who's covering Bologna against Napoli, approaching half-time. And I think we're still awaiting our first goal there, Ethan.
We are, but that's not to say things aren't getting a little bit feisty here between Bologna and Napoli. We've had the first yellow card of the game. It was a shove from Erbischer, the central midfielder of Bologna, on Kvaratskhelia as he was just trying to break. The resultant free kick from that led to a little bit of a scramble in the box. The ball didn't really fall to anyone. Osimhen had a couple of chances to get towards it, but defenders managed to cut it out. There was a collision between the goalkeeper and a Napoli centre-back, and in the end, it all ended a bit tamely. A sliced shot from captain Giacomo Di Lorenzo of Napoli. He didn't really get anything meaningful on the ball. Since then, just a couple of words been given out by the referee, not least to Thiago Motta, the Bologna manager. No real meaningful chances for either side, but they're both trying. They're both imposing themselves on the game. After 37 minutes, it's Bologna 0, Napoli 0.
Well, there's been some great action in Italian Serie A this weekend. Of course, Inter were in action earlier on this afternoon, and they secured a 1-0 victory at Empoli, with Federico Di Marco getting the only goal of the game as they open up a 3-point lead at the summit of Serie A. Following that victory, Milan, of course, yesterday they secured a 1-0, a very narrow 1-0 win at the San Siro against Verona, courtesy of Rafael Leao's early strike. Elsewhere in Serie A this weekend, Sassuolo inflicted Juventus's first defeat of the campaign with a surprising 4-2 win, and an own goal from Federico Gatti in the 95th minute clinched the points ultimately for Sassuolo. Elsewhere in Europe over the course of the weekend, of course, in the German Bundesliga, Harry Kane still in fine form at the moment, and he continued his fine form with a hat-trick as Bayern Munich dismantled Bochum in a 7-0 win that saw the defending champions climb back to the top of the table. Earlier on today, Leverkusen beat Heidenheim by 4-1 to move into second place. Victor Boniface, the Nigerian, scoring 2 of those goals. He's now got 8 in all competitions this season for Leverkusen. Also 8 goals as well for Harry Kane this season too. Looks as though those two will be vying for the top goal-scoring stakes in the Bundesliga this campaign. Meanwhile, Dortmund, Leipzig and Hoffenheim all secured victories yesterday to keep up their challenge at the top. Elsewhere in Europe this weekend in La Liga, an incredible encounter at the Stadio Olimpico. You may have seen yesterday as Barcelona came back from 2 goals down to beat Celta Vigo with 3 goals in the last 10 minutes. Robert Lewandowski scoring a brace and João Cancelo netting the winner just a minute from time. That win took Barcelona back to the top of La Liga after Girona had briefly held top spot following a 5-3 win at home to Mallorca. Real Madrid are in action later this evening as they travel to rivals Atletico Madrid in an 8 o'clock kickoff, and a win for Carlo Ancelotti's side will, of course, take them back to the top of La Liga. We shall wait and see what develops this evening. That kicks off, as I say, at 8 o'clock. And in French Ligue 1, Jeremy Boga scored a late winner as Nice beat Derby rivals Monaco 1-0 yesterday, following Balogun missed twice from the penalty spot, 1 in each half in his first start for Monaco. So it all went horribly wrong for him yesterday. That result allowed Brest to take advantage and move to the top of Ligue 1 as they beat struggling Lyon by the same scoreline. So some terrific action around the top European leagues of football. You're listening to Football Live. Right, let's just check back in now with Duka Domba, who's covering Sheffield United against Newcastle. They played around about 6 or 7 minutes, I think, of the second half. And I think, I would imagine, Duka, that Newcastle will be probably just settling in and not making too many mistakes and comfortably looking to hold this 3-0 lead that they have at the moment.
Yeah, it just seems very, very easy for Newcastle at the minute. They're just playing the ball around, and Sheffield United just look like they're chasing shadows at the minute. Sheffield United did make the one change at half-time. They brought off Jadon Bogle, brought on Ivory Coast striker Benny Traore. He comes off the bench, and it looks like Sheffield United have gone to a full-back rather than a 5 at the back. So definitely more attacking for Sheffield United. We'll see what they can do in this second half. At the minute, very, very comfortable for Newcastle. And still 3-0 here to Newcastle at Bramall Lane.
Let's head back to the Stadio Renato Dall'Ara as they approach half-time. Bologna against Napoli. Ethan Gardner.
Well, we've had a chance, actually. It's the first shot on target I can remember, at least in the last 20 minutes. Kvicha Kvaratskhelia hitting a dangerous one low towards the Bologna keeper Skorupski, who did, in the end, hold it quite well. But Napoli just starting to pick up the tempo, going in towards half-time now. They're looking to find the gaps in Bologna's stubborn defence, and actually a couple more are opening up. We can see if the attack that was so dangerous last season can score today. Osimhen just lying in wait to get his 4th of the Serie A season. However, it is, after 42 minutes, Bologna 0, Napoli 0 still.
I think Freiburg are knocking on the door at the Deutsche Bank Park in their match at Frankfurt. They're coming pretty close to opening their account there. Cam Wilson.
Yes, they've come so close, and it wasn't even through their own brilliance. It was a good free kick. It goes out wide just so they can get a quick cross. It's nice, it's clever to set in. And it's just an absolute miss here. He's gone diving in, Koch, and he's missed it completely. And it's almost hit the bar. And he's gotten so fortunate that Tuta is there, just almost head it away. And he just beats Grifo with half a second, maybe not even that. And that would have been a certain goal for Freiburg. Still 0-0, 55 minutes in.
Still goalless there. In the Dutch Eredivisie, Waalwijk have taken the lead through Filip Stevanovic in their match this afternoon at home to Twente. It's a very late goal there. They're into the 89th minute. It's Waalwijk 1, Twente 0. And a result for you to give from the top flight of Dutch football. Zwolle 0, Alkmaar 3 is the latest score there. Incidentally, earlier on today, Ajax faced Feyenoord at the Johan Cruyff Arena. That match abandoned with Feyenoord leading 3-0 due to crowd disturbances. Let's just take a quick look at the standings in the Dutch Eredivisie at the moment. Both PSV and Alkmaar with 100% records, 5 wins from 5. PSV have only conceded the 1 goal this season, and they are top by virtue of their superior goal difference. 20 currently, as it stands, in 3rd spot, although trailing at the moment, as I just mentioned, and could be heading towards defeat this evening at Waalwijk. So there you go. That's how things stands in the Dutch Eredivisie. In the Italian Serie A, as we've just had an update, of course, there from Ethan Gardner on the latest. Bologna against Napoli, still goalless. They're into the 45th minute there. Victor Osimhen, 4.20 to score next. In fact, he's now 4.33 with Naira Bet. That price, of course, is subject to change. We have another goal to give you from Bramall Lane.
The goals, powered by Naira Bet.
And I think Sheffield United will want this match to end as quickly as possible because Newcastle have scored a 4th. It's Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 4. Callum Wilson, who else, scoring in the 56th minute. There's still plenty of time for the Magpies to score further goals in that game. Ayo Alabi from Naira Bet was with us, just about an hour and a half or so ago. And one of his best bets was for Callum Wilson to score the last goal of the game at 4.75. Well, he's just added a 4th goal for Eddie Howe's men. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But there's probably still more goals in Newcastle at the moment, where it is Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 4. We will be bringing you all the details of that 4th goal for Newcastle from Football Live reporter Duka Domba just as soon as we possibly can. Plenty of action, of course, to look forward to next weekend here on Football Live. And that's Saturday, the 30th of September. Bournemouth against Arsenal. Manchester United taking on Crystal Palace. Wolves at home to defending champions Manchester City. Newcastle in action at home to Burnley. Everton versus struggling Luton Town, and West Ham taking on Sheffield United at the London Stadium. All of those matches kicking off at 3 o'clock next weekend. And the afternoon or the evening kickoff, of course, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Really looking forward to that one. Tottenham Hotspur at home to Liverpool, and a couple of other top matches from the European leagues to look forward to next weekend, with Leipzig in action at home to Bayern Munich in the Bundesliga. And in La Liga, we'll be covering Girona against Real Madrid. Girona having an absolutely fantastic season so far at home to Real. That will be a big test for them. Should be a cracker, that game. That's all to look forward to next Saturday on the 30th of September, where your host will be Josh Bailey. Wilson is now 42 goals for Newcastle, surpassing Celeste Van Ferdinand, who netted 41 times for the Magpies. Many thanks to that stat, to producer John Kane for that stat there. So Callum Wilson now on 42 goals for Newcastle, having scored the 4th for the Magpies this afternoon. Let's hear all about it now from Duka Domba.
I tell you what, this defending from Sheffield United is seriously laughable. Newcastle, again, thoroughly deserved their 4-0 lead, but if you're a Sheffield United fan at the minute, if you don't cry, you'll laugh, or if you don't laugh, you'll cry, how the saying goes. But Callum Wilson, I did say earlier, he was due a goal. He's been purring for that goal to get himself on the score sheet, and he has. And Kieran Trippier now has a hat-trick of assists in this game as well. A brilliant cross-in and an easy header. No one around him in the 6-yard box, and Newcastle comfortably in charge here. It's Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 4.
Half-time whistle has gone in the match between Bologna and Napoli in Serie A. Here's Ethan Gardner.
Yes, it has just ended the first half 0-0. There was another chance just before half-time a long ball forward. Napoli had just defended a break, and they sent a long ball forward, a hopeful one, to Victor Osimhen, who held the ball up really nicely and then laid it off to Giacomo Raspadori, who came into the side today to try and provide some more support for Osimhen up front. And it was a rasping shot he fired. It just clipped the top of the bar, I think, going over. He fired from just outside the box, but it couldn't quite go, and it is still 0-0. Another worrying sign for Bologna is that the man they brought on in the first half at right back, Silvestri, for the injured Posh, has himself looked to have picked up just a little niggle. And at half-time, they might evaluate him. It would be a very worrying sign if both of the right backs they named in today's squad were to leave the field. They're holding on well in defence and occasionally breaking on the attack, but Napoli look more likely to score. As you said, the odds on Osimhen scoring are very good. However, at half-time, it is Bologna 0, Napoli 0.
And we will be across most of the second half here on Football Live of that encounter at the Stadio Renato Dall'Ara. Plenty of fantastic action that's taken place this Premier League weekend, especially yesterday.
Meanwhile, let's go back to the Etihad. Patrick Norris is here to describe that Phil Foden goal.
Oh, yeah, what a goal it was. And I counted the passes, about 7 passes from the keeper. Bottom left-hand corner goal. What a goal it was. It was wonderful. Manchester City 1, Nottingham Forest 0. Haaland rose like a salmon. Brilliant header. Manchester City 2, Nottingham Forest 0.
Down at Kenilworth Road, there hasn't been a goal, but there has been a red card.
It is currently being reviewed by VAR, but it looks to me like there's absolutely no chance they'll overturn this. Tangle of legs, we just saw Bellegarde kick out at Tom Lockyer. Absolutely ridiculous.
Bayern Munich 7, Bochum 0. Poor Bochum.
Poor Bochum indeed. Equalising goal for Luton Town against Wolverhampton Wanderers, Matt Temporal.
Yes, and it's Carlton Morris with a very, very composed penalty.
And here to tell us about a very special goal on a very special occasion is Johnny Holmes.
Instant impact. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's been sent on moments ago for his 250th Everton appearance. And what a way to mark it. Ball is slid through to Calvert-Lewin and he shows his teammates, this is how you finish your chances. He's only had one sniff today. It's his first sniff today. It's his first goal today on his 250th appearance. Everton 3. Brentford 1. Surely Sean Dyche is going to get all 3 points here.
Goals as they go in. You're listening to Football Live.
That all happened yesterday, but back to events occurring today. There's been a further goal at Bramall Lane.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Well, I'm afraid if you backed Callum Wilson with NairaBet to score the last goal for Newcastle, you will be bitterly disappointed because Anthony Gordon has added a fifth there. It's now Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 5. Incredible. Anthony Gordon scoring his second goal of the Premier League campaign. Let's hear all about it now from Duka Domba.
I mean, it's a really, really good goal from Anthony Gordon. Cuts in on his right-hand side. He's about 20, 25 yards out from goal and manages to find the bottom corner. But serious question marks over the goalkeeping from Wes Foderingham. Could have comfortably been able to get a hand to this. But again, don't take anything away from Anthony Gordon here. He does really, really well to bring it inside and find that bottom corner. The defence again for Sheffield United just seem to all just stand off him and give him that space to go for goal. But this is becoming a real cricket score here as it's Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 5.
And Duka, apparently the Sheffield United fans are already leaving the stadium with still just under half an hour or so to play. Now, there were reports in the week that Chris Wilder is possibly being lined up as a replacement for the current place boss, Paul Heckingbottom, and this result is going to do the current place boss absolutely no favours at all.
I mean, I'll tell you what, if Paul Heckingbottom gets sacked tonight, I won't be surprised. This has been a disgusting display from Sheffield United. And bringing back Chris Wilder might do them the world of good. Chris Wilder, as we know, is an experienced manager at this level. And with Sheffield United, he's done some fantastic things. Nearly brought them into Europe when they first came into the Premier League not too long ago. So it wouldn't seem like a bad move for Sheffield United because at the minute, something seriously does need to change here.
Thanks very much, Duka Domba, reporting on Sheffield United against Newcastle. The Magpies now 5 up at Bramall Lane. As it stands, that would mean that Sheffield United dropped to 19th spot in the Premier League on goal difference, having already conceded a hatful this afternoon. You're listening to Football Live here on Brila FM. Still plenty of action to come between now and 6:30. And so we've got about another 34 minutes or so of the programme remaining. Let's just recap the results for you from the Premier League from earlier on today. In the North London derby, it ended honours even between Arsenal and Tottenham. Of course, another classic encounter it was between the two North London rivals. It was Arsenal who went ahead in that game. An own goal from Christian Romero after 26 minutes. That was cancelled out by Son Heung-min just before half-time. Arsenal going back ahead with a penalty from Bukayo Saka in the 54th minute. But Spurs back on level terms less than a minute or so later as Son Heung-min scored his second of the game, and that's how it ended. Liverpool dispatched West Ham by 3-1 quite comfortably in the end. Mo Salah putting them ahead from the penalty spot. That was cancelled out with an equaliser from Jared Bowen just before the break. They had a goal. Liverpool had a goal disallowed just before the interval when Curtis Jones netted, but that was ruled out by VAR. And then in the second half, goals from Darwin Núñez and Diego Jota secured all 3 points for Jurgen Klopp's side. On the south coast of England, Brighton made it 5 wins from 6 at the start of this Premier League campaign with a 3-1 win at home to Bournemouth, who had taken the lead through Dominic Solanke. But then an own goal from Milos Kerkez and then a brace from Caro Matoma in the second half ensured that Roberto De Zerbi's side took all 3 points this afternoon. And of course, at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea, things go from bad to worse for them. They were beaten at home by Aston Villa. They were reduced to 10 men after Malagusto received a red card. And then Ollie Watkins scored his first goal of this Premier League season in the 73rd minute to give the win for Unai Emery's side. And just looking at the Premier League standings following the results from earlier on today, Manchester City at the top of the table of the Premier League with that 100% record. Of course, the only side with a 100% record in the Premier League at the moment on 18 points following that win at home to Nottingham Forest yesterday. Liverpool in second spot, 2 points further back on 16. And then Brighton moving into third place following that victory against Bournemouth this afternoon on 15 points. And then further back in fourth and fifth spot, respectively, North London rivals Tottenham and Arsenal, both on 14 points. 2 points further back, Aston Villa, following that win at Stamford Bridge this afternoon. And at the other end of the table, well, I can tell you, there's been another goal at Bramall Lane.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 6 now. The latest score there. What an afternoon it's been for Eddie Howe's side. And that result, as it stands at the moment, means that Sheffield United now go to the very foot of the table. Miguel Almiron has scored the 6th for Newcastle, and we've only played 68 minutes. It's going to be a damage limitation exercise, I think, now for Paul Heckingbottom's side. Surely they trail at home by 6-0 against Sheffield United. What an afternoon for the travelling Toon Army. We'll be getting details of that 6th goal for Newcastle from our reporter Duka Doomba very, very shortly. So indeed, 6 different goal scorers for Newcastle this afternoon. Sean Longstaff opened their account. Dan Burn extended their lead. Sven Botman scored 10 minutes before the break as they took a 3-0 lead into the half-time interval. And then second half goals from Callum Wilson, Anthony Gordon, and now Miguel Almiron have made it Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 6. Let's cross over to Duka Doomba at Bramall Lane. And Duka mentioned earlier that the Sheffield United supporters were already leaving after they conceded a 5th goal. They must be holding their heads in their hands, and the Are there any Sheffield United supporters left?
I'd be very surprised if there was. I mean, I wouldn't have blamed if they walked out after 3-0, the way how this game is going. But an excellent finish by Miguel Almiron, actually. A very nicely threaded ball. I couldn't really tell who it was, but a very, very great ball through. Split the defence open, and Miguel Almiron, very cool finish into the bottom corner. And Newcastle 6-0 up here. This really could be 10-0. And this is not an exaggeration at all. Sheffield United have been awful, and Newcastle have just been excellent today. Take nothing away from Newcastle. As poor as Sheffield United have been, Newcastle have been clinical. They've been brilliant. And yeah, this really could be double figures today. It's been that sort of game.
6-0 Newcastle lead. They've nearly scored as many goals this afternoon as they have for the entire season so far. And there may still be more with about just under 20 minutes remaining there. Let's head back to the Deutsche Bank Park. Our feature match in the Bundesliga, Frankfurt against Freiburg. We're still awaiting an opening goal in that game. Cam Wilson.
Yeah, and we're still awaiting a really great chance so far. Both managers are looking to make a few more substitutions. I know, obviously, Frankfurt have made 3 already, and even subbing on someone like Mario Götze, we all know his qualities, but it has been so poor. When players are getting the ball, they're taking a touch, and then they're just not wanting to play it simple. They're trying to hit the first ball first time, unless there's been a mistake, which seems to happen when I ever said there is a chance. There's nothing on at the moment. The best chance so far since I last spoke to you was a shot from 45 yards that went blazing over the bar. It was nowhere near the goal. Probably went out the stadium. It's been that poor. 0-0, 72 minutes in.
Still goalless at the moment. Then these two sides last met back in May. Frankfurt winning 2-1 on that occasion, coming from behind with 2 very, very late goals indeed. So plenty of time still for either side to create something from that match. Let's head back now to Duka Duma at Bramall Lane. Unsurprisingly, Duka, Eddie Howe making a few changes there.
Yeah, I guess he's got every right to make some changes. His team are comfortably ahead. I think the game's all done and dusted now. But a few, 3 changes coming. Miguel Almiron coming off, Sandro Tonali coming on for him, Trippier coming off, Livramento coming on for him, and Callum Wilson coming off, and Alexander Isak coming on. But Sheffield United did just have a very, very decent chance, actually. It was the centre-half, Ahmed Hodzic, found himself in a very good attacking area and I believe went out for a goal kick, but really should have done better with that chance and given the Sheffield United fans at least something small to cheer about today. But as it stands, it's still Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 6.
And I mean, it's obviously going to be a stunning result, isn't it, Duka, whilst you're there for Newcastle this afternoon. But they've turned the corner a little bit, haven't they? Because they got that fantastic point in Milan in midweek in the Champions League. It was a really battling defensive display, wasn't it? They got all 3 points at home to Brentford last weekend as well, after a little bit of a rocky period this season, by their standards.
They've had a really good sort of 8 days, really. I mean, obviously the win against Brentford has sort of kicked things off, really. Wasn't maybe the most inspiring display by Newcastle, but they managed to grind out the 3 points, and that's the most important thing in this league, is getting those points on the board. And obviously went to Milan midweek and performed brilliantly defensively, looked really, really good. And then today they've shown their brilliance going forward. And I think Newcastle really do look a very good outfit. They've shown us now defensively they can cope with the pressure going forward. They can score goals. And even when they don't play so well, they can still pick up points on the board. So I think when Newcastle get themselves running, which hopefully they have now, they could really be a good outfit this season.
And we'll be across that match for its remainder at Bramall Lane. It's gone very, very wrong for Sheffield United this afternoon. And news coming through of a further goal there.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
This is quite an unbelievable afternoon for the Toon Army, because it is now Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 7. They're in 7th heaven, the Magpies. Confirmation of the 7th goal scorer, and it is another different goal scorer. Bruno Guimaraes has added a 7th there now. Newcastle's biggest Premier League win apparently was 8-0. Many thanks to our reporter Ethan Gardner for that stat. Thanks, Ethan. and they still got time, just over 15 minutes or so to break that record. It's Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 7. Let's head back straight over to Duka Dumba for details of that 7th goal for the Magpies. Duka, where'd you start?
I don't know where to start. I'm lost for words now. There's only so many positive adjectives I can describe Newcastle with at the minute, and so many negative ones I can describe Sheffield United defensively. But it's actually a very fortunate goal for Newcastle. It takes, I think it was I couldn't quite see who it was, but someone's shot. It takes a deflection and just falls into the path of Bruno Guimaraes, who he's about 5 yards out from goal, and takes a touch and just easily slots it home, and it's all too comfortable for Newcastle. And like I say, this really could be double figures here at Bramall Lane. But as it stands, it's Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 7.
18 shots for Newcastle this afternoon, 13 of those on target, and they've only scored the 7. We'll be back across that game with Duka Dumba very, very shortly here on Football Live.
Sports Radio 88.9 Brila FM.
Coming up next Saturday on Football Live with Josh Bailey. Manchester United taking on Crystal Palace. Liverpool go to Tottenham Hotspur. Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
Brila.
News and engagements never stop on our website
www.brilla.net
and our social media handles
889 Brilla FM
on Facebook.
Yes, 889 Brilla FM on Facebook, at 889 Brilla FM
on Instagram.
Got it? At 889 Brilla FM on Instagram
and on Twitter.
It's at Brilla FM 889 and Brilla Sports TV on Google+. Brilla.
News and engagements never stop.
So do remember to like all our pages. Do like us.
Secure an instant win with NairaBet when your team leads by 2 goals in the match. How many times has one of your betting selections had a meltdown after going 2 goals up? Don't stress. With our new 2 goals up market, if your selection goes 2 or more goals ahead at any stage in the match, then your selection will be settled as a winner, regardless of the final match result. Place your bets on the 2 goals up football market at www.nairabet.com. Include the 2 goals up selections in your bet slip with as many other selections as you want. For more details, check out our promotions page. Full terms and conditions apply. Must be over 18. Bets placed on the match winner market do not qualify. Market available on pre-match bets only. Please gamble responsibly.
You are listening to Football Live. Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
The Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brila FM with Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM 88.9 and 101.1 FM.
You are listening to Football Live.
Let's get back to the action on Football Live. Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
Yeah, we're just looking at some of the record-breaking margins in the Premier League, highest scores. Manchester United, of course, beating Ipswich 9-0. Gosh, that must have been, about 20-plus years ago now, something like that. Spurs with a 9-1 win against Wigan. Do you remember that? More recently, Leicester City putting 9 past Southampton at the St Mary's Stadium. Can Newcastle top that? Well, they've got about 12 minutes plus or so to do so. It remains Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 7 at Bramall Lane. We'll be checking back in with Duka Dumba very, very shortly here for a further update on that match. Just looking ahead to next weekend's action for you here on Football Live. We've been through the action taking place on Saturday. Of course, plenty of Premier League football to look forward to. Meanwhile, on the Sunday, matches that we are featuring, Nottingham Forest against Brentford. That's the standout Premier League match that weekend. and also plenty of other action from the top European leagues as well. Heracles are at home to Zwolle in the Eredivisie. In the Bundesliga, we'll be covering Darmstadt against Werder Bremen. In Serie A, Udinese is against Genoa. And a really enticing match to look forward to in French Ligue 1 next weekend as Nice take on Brest. Brest, of course, top of Ligue 1 as it stands at the moment. That'll be second against first, rather. So that should be a really entertaining match to look forward to. As I said, we'll get an update from Bramall Lane very, very shortly. Let's just recap once again the score lines from today's action from around Europe and the Premier League as well, of course. In the Premier League, it ended Arsenal 2, Tottenham 2, Brighton 3, Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 1, Liverpool 3, West Ham 1. In the Bundesliga, a result to give you from earlier on today, Leverkusen 4, Heidenheim 1. A couple of goals there for the Nigerian Victor Boniface in that game to move them up to second in the table. In Italian Serie A, results from earlier on today, Atalanta 2, Cagliari 0, Udinese 0, Fiorentina 2. And in the early kickoff, Empoli 0, Inter 1. Inter opening up a 3-point lead at the top of Serie A. Into La Liga, results from earlier on today, Rayo Vallecano 1, Villarreal 1, and Real Sociedad 4, Getafe 3 is how it finished there. In the Dutch Eredivisie, final scores, Waalwijk 1, Twente 0, and Zwolle 0, Alkmaar 3. The match between Ajax and Feyenoord was abandoned shortly after half-time, with Feyenoord leading by 3-0. And into Ligue 1 we go. Some results from Sunday's action. Montpellier 0, Rennes 0, Le Havre 2, Clermont 1, Lens 2, Toulouse 1, Metz 0, Strasbourg 1 is how it finished in that game. And finally, in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, Sunday's results, Cercle Brugge 0, Royal Union 2. Cercle Brugge reduced to 10 men in that game. And a 6-goal thriller between Genk and Saint-Troudin, where it ended 3 apiece there. Right, let's head straight back to Bramall Lane now. They're inside the final 10 minutes. Sheffield United against Newcastle, and the final whistle can't come soon enough for Blades fans. Duka Dumba.
Yeah, I'd imagine Paul Heckingbottom, all the Sheffield United players and all the Sheffield United fans are just waiting on that final whistle now. Newcastle, again, they're coming close as well. They're trying to get that 8th. They're looking really, really, really good here, and Sheffield United just don't know what to do. But as it stands, going into the final 10 minutes, Sheffield United 0, Newcastle United 7.
And next port of call is back to Italian Serie A. Bologna against Napoli. We're still looking for a breakthrough there in that game. Ethan Gardner.
We are, but actually in the early stages of the second half, it's looking more like Bologna who are going to take advantage. They had won a free kick not too long ago, a yellow card actually given to Napoli midfielder Lobotka for a foul on Bologna's right winger Ndoye, and the cross came in and actually caused quite a few problems for Napoli's defence. They're not quite as comfortable as they were in the first half. They have made a change at left back, Mario Rui coming on at half-time to replace Oliveira. Osimhen as well has had a couple of runs up the other end. But again, Bologna now, after half-time, after 51 minutes, looking more likely to break this 0-0 deadlock.
And Victor Osimhen now 4.60 to score next with NairaBet. Price subject to change, of course. Let's head back to Bramall Lane now. Duka Dumba, Sheffield United against Newcastle. And a debut for Lewis Hall there, Duka.
Yeah, Lewis Hall has just come off the bench to make his debut. It's been a while coming. Obviously, he was on the bench against Brentford and against AC Milan in midweek. So it's good to see him come off the bench to make his Newcastle debut. And we can see what he can add in the final 10 minutes and maybe get himself on the score sheet as well, as Newcastle look to make it 8 or even get to 10 at this point. But as it stands, still Sheffield United 0, Newcastle 7.
Astonishing scoreline there from Bramall Lane. Let's just check back in now with Cam Wilson, who's covering Frankfurt against Freiburg for the latest news from the Deutsche Bank Park.
Yeah, and it's all kicking off now. It's out of nowhere. Almost an elbow, you want to say, comes from Keitel. And I can't even. This shocked me so much that he's still down at the moment. I can barely even get the words out. Shaqiri is still down, holding his head. He seems to be doing anything to get the sending off, but the ref's only going to give a yellow card. And that seems to be the theme of the game. It's all just been like errors, tussles, nothing really of any quality, and the game is still 0-0, 85 minutes in.
So time running out for both of those sides to get a winner. Frankfurt 0, Freiburg 0 is how it remains at the moment. It's 16 minutes past 6 on this Sunday evening. You are listening to Football Live. We'll be back to Bramall Lane very shortly to see if Newcastle can extend their lead still further. Let's just give you a few other latest scores from around Europe. In La Liga, approaching half-time in both of these matches. It's Betis 0, Cadiz 1, and Las Palmas 0, Granada 0 is the latest score for you there. The big match, of course, taking place later on this evening is between Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. Real with an opportunity to go back to the top of La Liga if they get all 3 points this evening. That match, as I say, kicks off at 8 o'clock this evening. And in the Belgian Jupiler Pro League, a couple of latest scores to give you. Anderlecht 1, Club Brugge 0. They're into stoppage time at the end of the first half there. And they've just kicked off between Ghent and Eupen, and it's currently goalless there with a minute or so played. So you're up to date with all of the latest scores from around Europe. Let's just recap a couple of final scores for you and results from the UK. In the Championship, it ended Stoke 1, Hull 3, and Sunderland 0, Cardiff 1. A great win there and a great 3 points for Cardiff City. Leicester City and Ipswich at the top of the table on 21 points in the Championship. It has happened. There has been another goal to tell you about at Bramall Lane.
The goals, powered by NairaBet.
An afternoon to remember for the Toon Army. Alexander Isak has scored 3 minutes from normal time to make it Sheffield United 0, Newcastle United 8. An historic afternoon for the Magpies. We'll hear all about that 8th goal for Newcastle United from our reporter Duka Dumba, a little bit in just a moment. Just confirm, 8 different goal scorers as well this afternoon for Newcastle United. And they need 2 more to break the English Premier League record. Time running out, but at the moment it remains Sheffield United 0, Newcastle United 8. In the other 2 matches that we're covering for you in Football Live, it's Frankfurt 0, Freiburg 0 into the 87th minute there. Still goalless then. And they're still goalless as well at the Stadio Renato Dall'Ara at Bologna 0, Napoli 0. So as I say, crossing over to Duka Dumba for news of that latest goal for Newcastle United. They lead 8-0 and they have indeed matched the total number of goals. In fact, they've doubled the number of goals that they've scored already this season now, Newcastle United. Let's hear all about that latest goal from Duka Dumba.
Oh, I tell you what, this defending is I don't know how to describe it anymore. It's awful from Sheffield United. It's a header back from, I believe, Jack Robinson. I'm not too sure who it was, as a back pass, and it was so short that Alexander Isak was just able to run onto it. I was Tom Davies with the header back, and then Jack Robinson has slid in, and it's just a little turn from Alexander Isak, and he's just able to slot it home, and this is so comfortable for Newcastle. They've made it 8 here, and it really could be 10 because we're going to get added time as well. Not that Sheffield United really want it at the minute. They are desperate for that full-time whistle now. And as it stands here at Bramall Lane, it's Sheffield United 0, Newcastle United 8.
And Duka, do you think that the Newcastle players suspect that they might be on course for a record-breaking scoreline in the English Premier League here?
I mean, they really could be here. Sheffield United look so disjointed, as I've said so many times today, and Newcastle just are finding it so easy to find those gaps and get in behind the Sheffield United defence. So it really, I mean, especially with the amount of added time that's coming into Premier League games, I really can see a couple more goals coming Newcastle's way today. It's been so comfortable for them.
Wow. Where does Sheffield United go from here? They're going to have to try and recover from what's happened this afternoon at Bramall Lane. It means that they will go to the foot of the Premier League table this evening with that heavy defeat. That's putting it mildly. Their next match in the Premier League is a trip to the London Stadium away to West Ham. That's going to be a really difficult game for them. But trailing by 8-0. We'll be back with Duka Domba very, very shortly. You're listening to Football Live on Brila FM.
Sports Radio 88.9 Brila FM.
Coming up next Saturday on Football Live with Josh Bailey. Manchester United taking on Crystal Palace. Liverpool go to Tottenham Hotspur. Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
Brila.
News and engagements never stop on our website
www.brila.net
and our social media handles.
889 Brila FM.
On Facebook.
Yes, 889 Brila FM on Facebook. At 889 Brila FM.
On Instagram.
Got it? At 889 Brila FM on Instagram.
And on Twitter.
It's at Brila FM 889 and Brila Sports TV on Google+. Brila.
News and engagements never stop.
So do remember to like all our pages. Do like us.
Predict 6 correct scores to win a life-changing 20 million naira. Naira 6 is the new and exciting free prediction game to play at www.nairabet.com. We challenge you to predict the scores of 6 pre-selected fixtures, usually from the Premier League. Guess all 6 correct and the prize is yours. The guaranteed jackpot will be up for grabs each week, with plenty of prizes for runners-up. The best thing about Naira 6 is that it is completely free to enter. All you need to do is log into nairabet.com and click the free tab. Select Naira 6 and enter your predictions. Wait for the final scores. So what are you waiting for? Available to registered players only. 1 entry per person. Must be over 18 to sign up. Full terms and conditions apply. Please gamble responsibly.
Oh my dearie me. David De Gea, close your eyes. Now, I think he did close his eyes actually.
Oh, Liverpool fans. Oh, Liverpool fans. Your emotions must be going all over the place.
Well, I said the wheels were falling off. Wheels, the doors, the steering wheel, it's all come off.
Didn't really see that one coming this afternoon.
You are listening to Football Live. Live and exclusive on Brila FM.
The Premier League, the Bundesliga, Serie A, La Liga.
4 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday on Brila FM with Football Live.
You are listening to Football Live on Brila FM 88.9 and 101.1 FM.
You are listening to Football Live.
Let's get back to the action on Football Live. Powered by NairaBet. This is Football Live with Chris Baldwin.
3 minutes of the 6 that have been added at the end of the match at Bramall Lane between Sheffield United and Newcastle has passed as we head back to Duka Domba. Newcastle 8-0 up, 8 different scorers, and it's one of those results when you look at it in front of your eyes, Duka, you've got to rub your eyes because you can't quite believe it.
Yeah, no, I can't quite believe what I'm seeing. I mean, it will probably finish 8-0 now, but then again, what do I know? Newcastle could quite comfortably score an extra 2 more or whatever in the last 3 minutes. But Newcastle as a unit really really do look incredible today. Like you say, 8 different goal scorers for Newcastle United today, and that just shows, that's testament to the unit that they have and the squad that they have. And obviously there's a lot of question marks in terms of Newcastle's squad depth, going into the Champions League and stuff, and how they'd cope with that. Considering they played midweek and had to put in a real battle against AC Milan, they have not stopped running today, Newcastle, and they've just been fantastic. They've been unbelievable today.
We'll be back to Bramall Lane very, very shortly. Let's just check back in now with Ethan Gardner, who's been keeping tabs on Bologna against Napoli this evening, and we're still in search of an opening goal in that game, Ethan.
The goal.
Yes, we are still waiting
Nairabet.
for a goal here, but there have been a couple of excellent opportunities since. A rasping shot from Kavica Kvaratskhelia just being saved by the keeper, but the most recent one was Victor Osimhen. He really tested the Bologna keeper with a half volley under the legs of the defender across the box. It was kept out by Bologna, but the goal must be coming soon. Osimhen has been waiting for his opportunities, and he's soon surely to take one. It is, though, however, after 63 minutes, Bologna 0, Napoli 0 still here.
I can tell you, in the match we got covered for you in the Bundesliga at the Deutsche Bank Park, there was a late goal in that game, but VAR has come to the rescue of Frankfurt because I think it's been disallowed. Let's get to further details now from our reporter Cam Wilson.
Yeah, and it would have been his first ever goal had it been on for Junior Adamu. It was a brilliant cross in from Maximilian Philip, and it falls to him just on the edge of the box, and he heads it brilliantly, lobbing Kevin Trapp, leaving him no chance. But he just was offside just before the cross had come in. He'd quickly tried to make a last-ditch effort to get in the box for what was an attempted cross that never really worked out, putting him in that offside position. And unfortunately for him, he doesn't get his first ever Bundesliga goal, the Nigerian-born striker.
And that's how it finishes then. Frankfurt 0, Freiburg 0 is your final score in the Bundesliga. But an amazing finish there with a goal that was ruled out in the 97th minute for Freiburg. So the points are shared there. The full-time whistle has gone at Bramall Lane. As for the final time this evening, we rejoin Duka Domba.
Yeah, I'm still lost for words about this game. Newcastle, so impressive today. And Sheffield United were woeful, absolutely woeful. And the scoreline speaks for itself. Newcastle United really aren't here just to make up numbers in the top 7 of the Premier League or so. They are really here to compete in the top 4. And, after this result and this performance, why not for the title? Obviously, they are a few points off, but Man City can slip up. We've seen weirder things happen in the Premier League. None of us are expecting an 8-0 scoreline today. So, Newcastle, fantastic. Sheffield United, awful. And as it's finished here at Bramall Lane, it's Sheffield United 0, Newcastle United 8.
Wow, an absolutely amazing, historic victory then for Newcastle United this afternoon. 8-0 winners against struggling Sheffield United at Bramall Lane, with 8 different goal scorers as well, very nearly surpassing the all-time high-scoring Premier League matches that we've had down the years. But a convincing 3 points in the end for Eddie Howe's side. That's nearly it from us this afternoon. Let's just recap all of the Premier League scores from the weekend's action. It all got underway, of course, yesterday. Burnley 0, Manchester United 1, Brentford 1, Everton 3, Crystal Palace 0, Fulham 0, Luton 1, Wolves 1, Manchester City 2, Nottingham Forest 0. And following today's action in the big North London derby, the scores were shared there as Arsenal and Tottenham battled out a 2-2 draw. Brighton 3, Bournemouth 1, Chelsea 0, Aston Villa 1, and Liverpool 3, West Ham 1. An amazing weekend's action here on Football Live on Brila FM. We'll do it all over again next week when Josh Bailey will be your host on Saturday. But from all of us here, as we hand you back to Nigeria, it's a very good evening. Bye-bye.